All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Sabby Sabs podcast. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. Tonight, guys, we have a big show for you. We are, of course, live on X, on Rumble, and last but not least, of course, YouTube. Tonight's theme is What's the Real Threat? And we are going to get things started off with our special guest. So let me go ahead and show you the thumbnail first so you can see what we are discussing tonight, ladies and gentlemen. There's a lot of things that are going on, and I want you to think about this. What is the real threat? Tonight, we are discussing, if you haven't heard by now, things are getting crazy in the Middle East. Yemen, Ansar Allah has decided to close the strait that leads into the Red Sea. They have closed this to Saudi Arabia. This is a big deal. We're going to get into all of that. And of course, some of the other things that have happened between the U.S. and Iran the past couple of 24 hours. Things are definitely heating up there. And Colonel Wilkerson is going to join us for that. We're also going to discuss, if you haven't heard this by now, this is a big warning. Marco Rubio has decided to name names of the people that they are going to go after. So far, they've named over 43 names of individuals and groups. The censorship is getting very fierce, ladies and gents, and I'm going to tell you how this is going to have an impact on all of us. So everybody get ready. We're also discussing Epstein, new information here. It appears that another email from the Epstein file shows a peculiar invite to Jeffrey Epstein that includes this cabal society of people. And wait till you see who those people are. You might be surprised how some of them are together in one society. But it just goes to show you, again, it's one big club. So we're going to get into all of that. We're also going to discuss, we have breaking new information that was released today about Nolan Wells. A new video has been released about Horn Island. So we're going to get into all of that. And last but not least, Zohran Mamdani is being heavily attacked because he has announced that he plans to try to arrest Benjamin Netanyahu if he steps foot in New York. And a lot of people are coming down on him for this one, especially, of course, Donald Trump. So we're going to get into all of that tonight, ladies and gents. But first and foremost, let's go ahead and bring in our special guest. You have seen him here before. His name is Colonel Lawrence Wilkerson. Lawrence Wilkerson, sorry, I don't know his name. Colonel Larry Wilkerson. He is the former chief of staff to Colin Powell. Let's go ahead and bring him back in. Hi, Colonel Wilkerson.
Hello, I get confused over my name too, so.
Oh, buddy. Okay. We have big updates with the Middle East. Ansar Allah, also known in the West as the Houthis from Yemen, They have been, warning that they were going to do this if things continue to escalate in the Middle East. And now they have actually done it. And people need to pay attention because we do get oil from Saudi Arabia. So this is a big one. Yemen's Houthis officially announced a naval blockade on Saudi Arabia. They are banning all Saudi maritime traffic through Bab el-Mandab Strait and the Red Sea. So this is the pathway that leads into the Red Sea, which is, of course, the path that Saudi Arabia takes to get that oil. Saudi Arabia exports 4.5 million barrels of crude oil per day through Bab el-Mandab. Combined with Iran's full Hormuz sovereign control, Saudi can neither export through Hormuz nor through Bab el-Mandab Strait. This is effectively cutting off all Saudi oil exports as every tanker leaving Saudi ports becomes a target. I do have an image to show you guys so you can see what that would look like. So again, if you're just joining, Ansar Allah has decided to put a blockade through this path that leads into the Red Sea. The blockade is against Saudi Arabia. So everyone, just look at this video so you can see like how this path flows. So everyone see this here again, like if they can't get through, then they can't get into the Red Sea to get that oil. Colonel Wilkerson, I want to get your take on this. This is a huge escalation in the Middle East and how this can impact us at home as well.
Could you put that map back up just for a second?
Mm-hmm.
If your viewers will, you had it so it showed a little bit of the Strait of Hormuz. Yeah. Keep expanding if you can to get the Strait of Hormuz in it. There you go. There you go. If your viewers will take a look at what they're doing in addition to what you just announced, and I hear it's 5 million a day, but 4.5, 5 million, whatever. In addition to that, if you'll look up the coast to Oman, which is the country right next to Yemen, to the right of Yemen on the map, and look up toward the Strait of Hormuz, and then drop down just a little bit from where the Strait of Hormuz sort of turns due south, or the water turns due south. They also, I'm hearing right now, have shut down or will very shortly shut down a port called Fujairah, which is what the UAE uses to get its oil. It's on the Omani coast, but it's what the UAE uses to get its oil, equivalent amounts, into the commercial system. They've shut that down too, or on the verge of shutting it down, they being the Iranians. So that means that Fujairah is probably down or will be down soon, and also Yanbu over on the Red Sea. That's a tremendous blow to the oil traffic. And let me back up, and you can take the map down or leave it up if you like. We had what we called a tabletop game several years ago at what was then the United States Institute for Peace, right across from the State Department downtown on 23rd Street. Everybody came to that game that was interested in any way, fashion, or form in that region of the world, but particularly in the Red Sea. And you could call the event, has the Red Sea replaced the Persian Gulf as the cockpit of strategic competition in that region of the world? And the answer to that question, after 2 days of debating it with everyone from Marriott, AIG, shipping companies from over the world, the EU, the individual EU countries, with essentially the insurers, as I said, of all these shipping entities and so forth, with CENTCOM, Central Command, the command in charge of the war now, if you will, with European Command there, with Indo-Pac Command there. All these different military and other interested parties came together. And we all listened to the briefings from the world's experts on the Red Sea. And the answer to the question, has it replaced the Persian Gulf, is a resounding yes. And here's the reason why. roughly 60%, not just oil, but 60% of the world's commodity traffic on any given day passes through the Red Sea, through the Bab el-Mandeb and up through the Red Sea. It goes out the Suez Canal. In most instances, it has a little right turn it can make, and there's a little Gulf of Aqaba over there with the Port of Eilat in Israel, which is now completely shut down because there's no traffic there because of what the Houthis did before. That's 60% of the world's commerce. And one of the things we learned was that if you divert that, you have to divert it basically around the Horn of Africa. Now, other straits in the world, like the Strait of Malacca, which were thought to be, absolutely dependent on passage, are not all that dependent if you have other routing. In this case, you do with the Strait of Malacca. But here you don't. You're forced to go around the strait, around the Horn of Africa. The cost increase there is fairly substantial. That's the reason the Suez Canal was built. That's the reason all this traffic passes through the Red Sea. All to say that if this is shut down like it was before, remember, it was shut down before after Pete Hegseth said, we'll get in there and we'll kick their butts and it'll be open again. We didn't kick their butts and it wasn't open again. They kicked our butts. So they're going to do that again, more than likely. We're going to have two of the most important passages for global commerce essentially shut down to everything that is in support of, directly or indirectly, the genocide in Gaza. Because that's what the Iranians and the Houthis have been very pointedly all about. They're the only people in the world, basically now, that give a damn about the Palestinians in Gaza who are still being murdered at an inordinate rate. Still genocide going on. And it's happening on the West Bank, and it's happening in East Jerusalem and elsewhere too. So that's what this is all about, and it's a significant blow for the Iran side, for the Houthi side, for the Palestinian side in this conflict. And that's what they're doing. That's what they want to do, and they're the only ones in the world, really, that are supporting the Palestinians in this very visible and meaningful way.
I just want to show people too, people really have to understand again, like, yeah, global conflict, this is going to impact all of us. We do get oil from Saudi Arabia. So if Saudi Arabia can't get through because of that, here's that blockade right here, Houthi naval blockade into the Red Sea. And they warned people they were going to do this. And I just want people to take a look at the oil inventory right now. This is another thing that's going around. Crude oil only has 43 days of supply left in the United States. That is the lowest inventory in 45 years. And you guys can see the chart here. See how low it is right now? So we're Colonel Wilkerson, we're screwed.
Well, Donald Trump has purposefully done this, whether he knows it or not. And I sometimes think he's demented, so he doesn't know it. But he's purposefully done this, and he's done it so he can play the stock market and his friends can play the stock markets and they can make tons of money, which they have been doing, including Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff. You're right, though. This is looking very grim, and it's looking grim for a number of reasons that most Americans and many people in the world simply don't understand or know about. One of them is what you just pointed out, and that is the Strategic Petroleum Reserve in the United States. But another one is the SPR in China. China has actually become, because it is the major oil user in the world, China has become as influential, but in a very different way, as OPEC was in previous decades, when you may recall they brought us to our knees with the Arab oil embargo. And we were, lined up at filling stations trying to get gas. I remember that vividly. I had to go from Fort Monroe to Washington, and I had to get in a line of about 50 cars at one filling station just to get gas. Well, what China's doing now is the same thing, but for a different reason. Because it's the biggest oil user in the world, its demand is incredible. And their Strategic Petroleum Reserve, which is gargantuan, has been reduced significantly too. And they are thinking about filling it. And if they do that, if they say, I need to fill the reserve, and they put the cash on the barrelhead, which they can do, then the oil markets are going to be distorted for the opposite reason. Demand in China is going to be so great that it's going to soak up all of the available oil, which you just pointed out is going away rather rapidly. And China has coal reserves, and it has the greatest incredible complex of renewables in the world now. So China is sitting in the catbird seat, really sitting in the catbird seat. It has all of these advantages right now going for it, on top of which the latest report on world opinion, you may have seen it, it says that China is rising in the world's opinion and the United States is sinking dramatically in the world's opinion. That is to say, the 197, 198 or so nations the UN recognizes, 2/3 of their populations hate our guts. That's what's happening in the polling. In Pakistan, it was 90% plus hate our guts. Think we're the greatest threat to their happiness and peace in the world. Even South Korea has a population, the majority of which feels that way. So all of these things are happening at the same time, and many of them are congregating around and being deepened and made more profound by this stupid war that Donald Trump, he can't blame this one on Biden, is solely responsible for. This insane war that we are losing and they are winning.
Colonel Wilkerson, how do you feel about these U.S. troops that were just killed in Jordan, right? So what I find very interesting is that the Trump administration did not evacuate those bases, right? So Pete Hegseth's response about that was that it's a sacrifice, a necessary sacrifice. Like they're talking about like just sacrificing Americans. And then, again, at the end of the day, all for Israel. So you have more U.S. troops that have been killed in the Middle East since, the Iran war, the second part, the war kicked off. And then on top of that, it has also been reported that the U.S. CENTCOM in particular is downplaying the number of casualties, of U.S. casualties that are coming out of the Middle East as well, that are at those bases. I wanted to get your perspective about that, because when reporters are asking Donald Trump about these American troops and Pete Hegseth that are killed, the response should not be, well, it's just a sacrifice.
Well, Hegseth is just that kind of person. Let's face it. You got Republicans in the Congress right now who are dealing with him almost on a appropriations committee or subcommittee basis. Pete Hegseth and General Kane, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, on the other side. And even the Republicans are getting angry with him about how he's unable to express why he needs, for example, this additional money when he's already got $1.5 trillion and can't account for that, can't pass an audit, can't tell the people with whom he's discussing it where that money's gone or why he needs all this extra money. He is a crass individual, let's put it that way. Don't think he's ever sacrificed anything in his life, not like you were talking about these men and women are doing. He's not the kind of Secretary of Defense, Secretary of War that we need at this time. He hasn't been for the entire duration of his stay there. Why he was approved by the Congress should be checking in the mirror every morning as to why they approved this guy as the Secretary of Defense, Secretary of War, whatever you want to call it. He's not competent. He's not doing anything but being a sounding board for Donald Trump and resonating in turn with Donald Trump's mercurial personality and is flying all over the place with his decision making. So he's a disaster. He's a fiscal disaster. And finally, the Republicans are figuring this out. They've got two guys missing right now from this very important defense subcommittee. Lindsey Graham is dead. I don't want to say what I think about that. And Mitch McConnell is, hors de combat, if you will. You don't know where he is at any given time. So they are in a quandary as to what they're going to do. And Sabby, one of the things they're getting ready to do, and this is reprehensible, and Hegseth is right there behind it. This is reprehensible. If you know anything about Jonathan Parlin and his treason against the United States, you know that he should have been sent to Leavenworth and hung by his neck until he was dead. He should never have been pardoned. But what Jonathan Pollard did in terms of his treason was utterly unconscionable. For money, basically, he sold the highest secrets of America. He sold them to Israel and to others, and Israel sold them on to others. What we're getting ready to do in the Senate is we're getting ready to institutionalize by law what Jonathan Pollard did. And it's in 2 amendments to the National Defense Authorization Act, one introduced by Tom Cotton in the Senate, and the other introduced, I want to say, by Bibi Netanyahu. The latter one, essentially marries up the U.S. and Israeli intelligence communities forever. Bibi Netanyahu's wildest dream has come true. The other one marries up the contractors like Lockheed Martin, RTX, and Israeli equivalents, and our people in the Defense Department forever, in a lock that no national state-to-state relationship has ever seen in the world before, going back 3,000 years of human history. We're going to be tied to Israel and Israel to us in ways that are inescapable, and that are treason, frankly, because anybody that thinks Israel will stop doing what it did with Jonathan Pollard simply because Pollard is gone and the Congress is acting as Pollard is smoking some cheap stuff. So we're in trouble in so many ways that I find it very difficult to figure out how we're going to get through the next 6 months and not have really convulsions in this country, domestic convulsions and overseas convulsions, as our allies wake up increasingly to how much we have abandoned them and how much trouble we're putting them in.
To your point, Thomas Massie was talking about this earlier today. I do want to explain to people this part here. The House will soon take 2 votes that will compromise our sovereignty by merging our military technology and supply chain with Israel's. Today's vote on House Resolution 1438 brings the NDAA to the floor without a vote on striking Section 219. So, guys, remember I was telling you there were multiple sections in these bills that introduced this merger. Tomorrow's vote is to pass the NDAA. So they're supposed to pass the NDAA on Wednesday. Then he went on to tell us, unfortunately, the rule passed just now and no debate or vote was allowed on Section 219, integration of the U.S. military technology and supply chain with Israel's. The NDAA will receive a recorded vote tomorrow, which will be Wednesday, with Section 219 in it. I will vote no. So for those who were not aware, Thomas Massie did put the warning out that unfortunately this time around, they would not allow him to propose an amendment to this section like he was able to do last time. So because he wasn't allowed to propose an amendment, it just goes to the floor anyway. And I also want to warn people about this, and I want to get your take on this too, Colonel Wilkerson. If you think that this is something that the Democratic Party is going to, overturn if they get into power, that's not going to happen. This is a bipartisan thing here. So Hakeem Jeffries supports this, and Mike Johnson both support this. I want to get your take on that, Colonel Wilkerson. The fact that both of these parties support this merger with Israel, with the exception of a couple of members in the House.
There are quite a few Democrats who of late have shown that were they given the opportunity and did they have the power, they would vote against this. Unfortunately, it's too late for them to be waking up. And you're right. I think we're going to have to live with this at least for a time. And it's unconscionable what it means. I mean, you're talking about taking the visibility such that it was under Biden, it hardly was any visibility. He violated the law every time he shipped some arms to Israel, basically. But at least it was exposed. At least it had the State Department looking at it. At least it had people with a conscience saying things like Josh Paul did. Josh Paul, you may recall, from Political Military Affairs at State, who monitored this as a rule in his job, resigned because of it, and now has a pack up trying to combat AIPAC and its influence, and is doing a pretty good job. But it's going to take time to get this going. Likewise, it's going to take time for the, I think, 60 to 70% of America now that is under 50 years old that thinks this relationship with Israel is poisonous, which is the pure truth, and wants to do something about it. So it'll take time, and I'm afraid that in that time, a lot of bad things are going to happen. And Mike Johnson and Mitch McConnell and John Thune and others like them are going to have to bear the burden of history in terms of what they've done. They are, in effect, traitors. They are, in effect, traitors. Let me emphasize that word, traitors, because they have betrayed the United States. And Section 224 goes even deeper into it. And I'm quite sure that one's going to make it through, too. So we're looking at a Congress that is betraying the United States of America in a significant way with regard to national security, and I think with regard to domestic tranquility, because we're going to have at least close to, if not an actual civil war over this, if we don't do something about it.
I think so too. I want people to realize that despite what Donald Trump says, Iran is kicking our butt right now. Like the U.S. is striking, infrastructure in Iran. Max Blumenthal was just talking about how the U.S. is still bombing civilians in Iran, by the way. Corporate media is not covering it anymore. War crimes. Yeah. They mentioned the Manab school, but this is still happening and corporate media stopped covering it. So I want to show you guys what is happening now because Iran has started to attack technology centers, American technology centers that are in the Middle East. I want to remind you that this video they released before, they warned people that if you continue to escalate, this is what was going to happen. So I'll read it along with you guys because it's not in English, but here we go.
در صورت عملی شدن تهدیدات آمریکا در خصوص نیروگاه‌های ایران بلافاصله اقدامات تنبیهی انجام خواهد شد.
So he said if the U.S. were to escalate these threats, this is what would happen.
نیروگاه‌های برق، زیرساخت‌های انرژی و فناوری اطلاعات رژیم صهیونیستی و شرکت‌های مشابه در منطقه که سهامدار آمریکایی دارند به طور کامل تخریب خواهند شد.
So what he was saying there is that if the U.S. continued that escalation, they were going to attack those technology centers. They were also going to go after American shareholders, these American companies that are in the Middle East, in some of those other Gulf states. They said that they were going to do that. And according to the IRGC, apparently they are saying that they have destroyed Amazon's central data hub in Bahrain using cruise missiles, calling American tech firms legitimate military targets. The group has also warned 18 U.S. technology companies, including Google, Microsoft, and Cisco, saying they could be targeted next. So you guys can see some of that here.
Iran's IRGC has claimed that it destroyed Amazon's central data hub in Bahrain using cruise missiles. In fact, this group has also warned at least 18 U.S. technology companies, reportedly that includes Google, Microsoft, and Cisco, stating that they could be targeted. Remember, this is not the first time that commercial facilities of U.S. tech companies have been targeted, because earlier on in April, AWS's facilities in UAE and Bahrain were targeted. And in fact, U.S. tech companies were back then also warned of these attacks. Iran, meanwhile, has been retaliating with attacks on U.S.-linked targets across Bahrain, Kuwait, and Jordan. And remember, this happened after the U.S. launched a 10th consecutive day of strikes on Iran's command centers, defense systems as well, which were hit. What's also happened, according to reports, is that regional mediators, including Qatar, Oman, and Egypt, they are pushing for a proposal for a short-term ceasefire, for a 10-day ceasefire. But will that be acceptable to Iran and the United States? That remains to be seen.
So I want to get your thoughts on this, Colonel Wilkerson, these tech companies, because Iran said that these tech companies are also complicit, not just with the genocide, but also that they're using surveillance against them too.
Well, I pointed out a number of weeks ago that Iran has tiered target sets. And by that, I mean, they're going very strategically and very calmly and prudently through these target sets and doing increasing damage each time they do it. Now, people have asked, how do they do this? How do they have the technology to do this? Well, I'll tell you how. They have the very finest satellite in the world overhead, furnished by China, probably one furnished by Russia too, but I don't know that, but I know about the one furnished by China, which is giving them exquisite targeting data, exquisite information and intelligence, and exquisite ability to see in real time what they're doing. Let me give you an example. In Jordan, when an F-35 pulled into a hangar and the door came down on the hangar, within seconds, the Iranian missile hit the hangar, blew the F-35 up, and blew the hangar up. That's the kind of timely, on-the-spot intelligence that this satellite is giving them. And they're using it, and they're using it very well. And what I've said is they have a set of targets they're going to go through if they have to. They don't want to go through the latter part of it because it will hurt the entire world. But they will if they have to. Now, they've supplemented this with targets like you've just displayed on the screen there, American companies in the region, and they're going to hit those too because they belong to the great Satan, to the United States of America. And we have made them that, Sabby, I can't say this more, I can't say it emphatically enough. We have put 93 million people in a country as variegated and as big as Western Europe. We have put 93 million people into a resolute stand that is unprecedented. They are going to stand up to us come hell or high water. They are going to take us on to the last Iranian. They're going to take us on to the last target, and the last target may well be in our country. And that's where they are now. If they proceed on this tiered target list and they start hitting other things, say Ras Tanura in Saudi Arabia, for example, and they take out some 11 to 15% of the productive capacity of the region in terms of all the products that are necessary, from oil to helium, then we will see a global depression. They will impact the entire globe, and it won't be pretty. And so I think that's why they're restraining themselves. But this stupidity of Donald Trump, this pressing this unwinnable war, killing more and more innocent Iranians, killing women and children, and bombing nuclear reactors, and bombing desalination plants, and bombing bridges, and doing the same kind of thing, for example, that Bill Clinton did to Belgrade when the Serbians stood out on the bridge in Belgrade and shot the middle finger at the F-16s rolling in. Bombs don't do anything but make people mad, is what I'm saying. And we are making 93 million people very, very mad. And Sabby, we're even talking now about putting the tiny little number of ground forces that we have on the ground in Iran. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine the casualties there? The heat is so great there now that you would have to carry 5 gallons of water per Marine or soldier, and you drink it all in the first hour. I mean, this is incredible terrain to fight in, incredible environment to fight in. We know nothing about it. We have no clue as to what it's going to be like if we do that. So Donald Trump is just weaving a basket of disaster, but not just for himself and his political party, for the United States in particular, but maybe a good portion of the world if we go on with this insanity.
Yeah, this is not, people got to stop looking at this as a partisan thing. Like, this is something that's going to impact all of us, right? Regardless of what political party you are a part of.
Yes.
One of the things I noticed was the missiles, the missiles that I saw used recently. I was talking about a little bit on Sunday. These missiles that Iran is using, number one, they're moving incredibly fast, Colonel
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes.
So by the time you even see it, you really have a chance to get out of the way. And then I'm noticing as it is getting closer towards the ground, it just quickly changes direction and goes right for the target.
Yes. These are incredibly efficient and accurate, and I think very surprising to Bibi Netanyahu and his vaunted intelligence complex, and to ours too, because they are not vulnerable to our air defense to any degree that really matters. The PAC-2 and the PAC-3, for example, the vaunted Lockheed Martin Raytheon RTX missile of choice for everybody. We're going to give it to Zelensky, and he's going to be able to produce it in 3 years in Ukraine and so forth. It's got less than a 20% kill rate. I think it's probably even lower than that. Ted Postall has videos that would indicate it in some instances it's as low as 4 or 5%. So they're not shooting these things down for the very reason that you just said. These are tremendously capable and fast ballistic missiles, some of which come in and release submunitions just above the ground that are as powerful as a 155 artillery round, each one of them. And they release a horde of them. And as you said, in some of the videos, you can see that they can maneuver right down to the point of release. And so you can't hit them. And they have lots of these left. And if Israel comes back into this war, I'll say it here, Israel is going to disappear. It's going to disappear. It almost did before, and it will. That's the reason you see Netanyahu being more compliant. One reason is because he's losing this run up to the election, and he's probably going to get kicked out of office, put in jail, and go to hell where he belongs. But what you're seeing is a quietness on the part of Israel because he does not want to invite these missiles back to Israel proper. And he will if he keeps doing what he's doing in Lebanon. Now, supposedly he's agreed that he's not going to do it to the extent he was doing it. We'll just have to see how this works out. Because if Hezbollah is allowed to join in Israel's next attack or Iran's next attack on Israel, Israel's going to have real problems surviving, not just politically, but surviving physically on the ground under these missiles that you just well described.
Another thing, too, was like the way that they just dismiss these generals, right? So for people who are not aware, I told you guys my family was military. You don't just become a general. Okay. So like the way that Pete Hegseth just said, I'm going to fire these like 5-star generals and not listen to their advice when they tell you not to do this with Iran. That's insane.
Well, Sabby, my great pain as a military professional who's been around for 50 years now in terms of the military is that we haven't had more of them speak out. We haven't had more of them just stand up and say, I'm out of here. I'm not doing this. This is insanity. I don't care who the president is. I don't care who the SecDef, SecWar is. It doesn't matter to me. Take your preacher, preach your Christianity, your version of it, because it is his version of it. It isn't anybody else's version except the idiots who believe like he does. It's the people who want Armageddon, the rapture, and Jesus Christ to come to earth and kill all the unbelievers and, the end times to come and so forth. That's Pete Hegseth. That's who he is. And that's who's leading our military. And yet, none of these generals of consequence, except one or two, like the Southern Command commander who didn't have much truck for killing people on the high seas with no due process, maybe a couple of others, has stood up and been counted. None. They're disgraceful.
It's crazy. I want to show you what Donald Trump just said. So he was questioned about Iran earlier Tuesday.
Yeah. Mr. President, there are no signs that Iran is ready to stop fighting. So what is the plan? Is the plan to just keep bombing until they give up?
There are no signs. What, do you know something that I don't know?
Well, they continue to attack our allies and kill Americans.
You don't know what the dialogue is behind the scenes, that they want to meet desperately to try and end it because they're getting decimated. You don't get that when you listen to your fake station, but you don't know anything.
So talks are
you know
still
something
possible,
that I don't
likely?
know? Do you know something I don't know?
Well, tell us.
I will tell you, they want to desperately meet, and until they're ready to meet in a meaningful way, we have no interest in even.
So the
They have not made a word of comment about negotiating with him again, except to say that they will not, under any circumstances, talk with a liar and a cheat and an untrustworthy, deceitful man like Donald Trump. And they assume that he represents the people of the United States of America. I think that's the way they feel. And it's a lockstep now. We used to talk about the hardliners, the moderates and all that. There's nothing in Iran now except resolution, dedication, and we will fight you to the death. All 93 million people of us. They don't want to talk to him. They don't want to talk to him. The president doesn't want to talk to him. The Guardian Council doesn't want to talk to him. The Majlis doesn't want to talk to him. The IRGC doesn't want to talk to him. No one in Iran wants to talk to him because there aren't any factions in Iran anymore. There's only Iran.
Yeah.
And we did that. We did that.
I just, it's crazy to me that he can just sit there and just blatantly lie when everybody can see, we can see the videos, we can see the news, like those, especially those of us watching the international channels, like we can see what is actually happening, on the ground. I was talking to my dad about this recently. My dad, former military, he was talking about just how many lies they were telling on corporate media that the US is pummeling Iran and all that type of stuff, right?
Right.
So he was comparing what they were saying and what they were showing to what independent media is showing, to what even like with Al Jazeera, they can be kind of weak sometimes, but even what Al Jazeera was showing, what I was showing, what people like Danny Haiphong, all the videos that we were showing that corporate media is not showing. And it's so obvious to anyone really paying attention. This does not make any sense. Donald Trump says we obliterated their military. Okay, well, who's firing these missiles then?
Yeah. And we obliterated their nuclear program. Remember? We obliterated the nuclear program. How many times? 6, 7 times we obliterated it? We wiped it out? And what's he want to talk about? The nuclear program. And what's he about to put troops on the ground for if he does? The nuclear program. You can't make this stuff up. If I'd been that reporter, Sabby, I'd have been saying, well, who's giving you your information? Who's giving you your information, Mr. President? Because you're lying through your, proverbial mouth. I'm sorry. Who's giving you your information, Mr. President? And I dare him to tell somebody who is giving you the information. Laura Loomer, maybe in a seance.
It's crazy. I think another thing that was very telling was Ayatollah Khamenei's funeral. The number of people that were there.
Massive.
And Trump's, yes, his response was, I thought I was told they didn't like him. I mean, it's again, like this is humiliating. If I was Donald Trump, I would be humiliated. But no, he's not. They just continue to lie and lie. And I think my question is, how long do you think this continues for? Do you think he's trying to drag this out into the midterms, or do you think he's trying to drag it out for the rest of his presidency?
I think he's trying to drag it out as long as he can, and I don't think he has any idea how long that is. That's the disturbing factor. And he's going to get the idea only when some really dramatic things happen and people start talking to him in the world in the way that they should be talking to him. And when I say people, I mean people like the president of Mexico, the president of Canada, the prime minister of Canada, and other leaders in Europe and other leaders in the world who need to start telling him that he is an emperor with no clothes on. He is naked before the world, and he's making them and their lives, and particularly in Europe with this situation where the brain dead Europeans are almost in a war with Russia now. I mean, Putin thinks, I think very seriously that he's at war with NATO now. And we're just waiting for this to break out into some sort of attack on a NATO facility in a NATO country and just dare the United States or anybody else to do anything about it. So we're combining these two disasters, one because Trump has paid no attention to it whatsoever and is just deepening the quandary there over Zelensky, and the other one because it's his war of choice. It's his total war of choice. I listened to a series, I think it was the Lincoln Group that did it. They're a Republican group. A series of his remarks over the past decade about Middle East wars. And then you look at what's happening. I mean, here he is condemning everything that was done in Iraq, both times, everything that was done in Afghanistan, everything that was done in association with that. And now he is the biggest perpetrator of a war that is senseless, insane, and going to rebound on us in so many negative ways, I can't even recount them all. How do you get from there to there? It's impossible for me to understand the way the man's mind works. And to have all these lackeys around him who do nothing but act sycophantically, who just do whatever he tells them to do whenever he tells them to do it, is crushingly stupid. And it's going to get everybody killed if they're not careful. I mean, the potential for any one of these conflicts to turn into a nuclear conflict is heavy, not least of which with Bibi in Israel and sitting on the, whatever we think, 260, I've heard a number of different figures, nuclear weapons that they have, because Israel is rapidly approaching not just an existential political situation, but an existential real situation if Iran were to unload on it again.
Do you think the reason why more Republicans are not standing up to Donald Trump with this Iran war is because of what happened to Thomas Massie?
That could be part of it. That's a symptom of it. And you could say the same thing about the mayor of New York right now. I mean, look at what's happening to him, because he said, very rightfully so, that he would probably put Netanyahu in chains if he comes to New York, which is precisely what he should do. And now we've got Trump saying, you know, I'll descend on New York and New York will disappear if you do that sort of thing. This is crazy. We have civil war tendencies right now, this minute. We have civil war potentialities right now, this minute, over just Donald Trump's presidency. Not to say the other things that are so crushingly bad right now, like the huge debt we have that no one cares about, and that they're augmenting every day with the hole that exists at the Pentagon that people just throw cash down. We have so many problems right now that are going to haunt us to the grave. And to do this at the same time these problems are confronting us finally, full blown, is just insanity. It's just insanity. It's domestic and international insanity. And Donald Trump is presiding over it.
They just voted to send $2 billion to Jordan.
Please, Jordan, be there when it arrives. I mean, look at Iraqi Kurdistan. The Iranians have almost destroyed Sulaymaniyah and the area around there because they know what was happening in Kurdistan in Iraq. They know that in northern Iraq, the Mossad, the CIA, and MI6 were putting together a package to inspire the Kurdish Peshmerga to go into Iran and to help with the war in Iran. Well, the Kurdish Peshmerga may have demonstrated stupidity in the past, depending on the United States. I go back to Operation Provide Comfort, for example. But I don't think they're going to do it this time. And Iran's making sure they're not going to do it. Iran's just devastating that area right now. And they've done the same thing to Jordan, and they'll continue to do it to Jordan. And ask the question of yourself, Jordan is about maybe 300,000 people that might be loyal to the king, sitting on top of 6.5 million Palestinians. What do you think is going to happen there if Iran keeps pounding Jordan? I mean, Bibi Netanyahu would love that because he'd love the Palestinians all to go to Jordan. You know, take Gaza, take West Bank, push them all into Jordan. But then you've got a pretty formidable army in Jordan that is opposed to you 100%. It's composed of about 12 million Palestinians. We're creating a disaster, an absolute disaster. And at the center of it all, is the U.S. relationship with Israel and Israel's relationship with the United States. That's at the center of it all. Whether we say that's what Iran is defending against, or we say that's what's contaminating the U.S. security complex is its relationship with Israel, or whether we say Trump and Netanyahu together are two worst leaders in the world and doing more damage to the world and to their regions and their countries than any leaders have done in many, many years.
Speaking of that relationship, I want to show people just so that people understand what we're talking about here. Azapak made a quick video about this. Israel's trying to fuse the U.S. military with the IDF so that people really understand what this means.
Israel's contributions to America's defense are important.
In a letter backing the National Defense Authorization Act, Netanyahu called it my plan to change Israel's relationship to the U.S. from aid recipient to full partner.
It certainly brings up some issues of sovereignty, but we'll have to work that out later.
Israel has lost support among the American public, so Netanyahu has launched a rebrand. Foreign aid becomes shared development. The Senate and the House are advancing legislation that will merge our military with the IDF. It will force us to inherit responsibility for Israel's war crimes.
That part, that's the part people really need to understand.
And
so
they
the
don't.
thing is
You're
like,
right.
yeah, like that is a sovereignty issue. I mean, it's just it's scary and it's disturbing. Now, Jeffrey Sachs earlier, I saw this video earlier today. He said that Israel will not last.
I agree. I agree. As a democratic state in the Levant, Israel is dead. It's dead. If it were to become a democratic state, a true democracy, and implement even halfway the UN resolutions that pertain to the Palestinians, like right of return and judging what might happen, it simply would, by the power of the womb alone, probably be overwhelmed by Arabs and Christians and others in the region eventually, but it would be a democracy. And if it were a true democracy, it would treat its citizens roughly the same. It cannot continue to exist as a Jewish state, period. It just can't. We were getting ready, a group that I was working with at the time, we were getting ready to put up a billboard outside of Tel Aviv on the main highway there. We collected, I think, around $30,000 to pay for this billboard. And the billboard was going to say, very simply, in bold letters in Hebrew and English, it was going to say, a Jewish state is not good for Israel. That is the truest phrase ever contemplated for going on a billboard. It is not good for Israel. It is the worst possible thing for Israel. They've demonstrated that conclusively now. They are a genocidal state as a Jewish state. Sorry, but they are. And the reflection of that is 80% Jewish citizens of Israel in poll after poll now show that they might hate Bibi Netanyahu's guts, which increasingly they do, but they like what he's doing. They support what he's doing. They support Ben-Gvir. They support Smotrich. They support Katz. They support all these people who want to murder women, children, everything in their path. They support the idea of Greater Israel. That cannot be tolerated. And the world will wake up and not tolerate it eventually. Many of the states in the region have already woken up. What did the Omani foreign minister say in English once again? The greatest threat in the Persian Gulf region is not Iran, it's Israel. That's the Omani foreign minister, probably the best friend we have in the region that's an Arab.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because we're hearing more and more politicians say it's all Netanyahu's fault when, as you just pointed out, the polls show the majority of the Israelis support what Benjamin Netanyahu is doing.
Yes.
So it's not just Benjamin Netanyahu. And do you think, how long you think he's going to be able to ride this out before I think he should be facing elections at some time point? But then he also has his own charges that he is facing in Israel.
Yeah, he's going to jail. My example is Ariel Sharon, who, when he left, went to jail, and he died in jail. Netanyahu has a pacemaker. He has prostate problems, just like I do. I know how bad they are. He has other deficiencies right now. Netanyahu will die in jail. I predict Netanyahu, like Sharon, will die in jail. I think they let Sharon out because his cancer was so bad that he was going to die imminently, and he did. So they didn't want him to have to die in jail. But I'm not even sure they'll do that for old Bibi. They hate Bibi now. The majority of them hate Bibi. The polls show that he would lose decisively no matter when the election is held. He's now crafting things so that the elections won't be held, or if they are held, they'll be like ours are probably going to be. They'll be so controlled by the existing government that they won't mean anything. But I think he's going to bite the dust. I think he's going to bite the dust.
Interesting. Colonel Wilkerson, thank you so much for your time. Where can people follow your work?
Eisenhower Media Network. Just
all right.
Google it. By the way, that report you were talking about before, the one that Marco Rubio turned out that has all those people in it that ICE is supposed to take note of, and get their guns ready for because they're communists, included Ben Cohen, our sponsor, our financer, because Ben is a communist. Ben and Jerry's is a communist.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy. Thank you so much, Colonel Wilkerson.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, ladies and gents, that was Colonel Larry Wilkerson. You guys have seen him on here before. Again, we've got to pay attention to what is going on in the world, ladies and gents. I'm going to keep an eye on these oil prices too, because that's another thing. I'm like, it's one thing you have the Strait of Hormuz, and then now we have, of course, that narrow path that leads into the Red Sea that Yemen is now blocking from Saudi Arabia, and we also get oil from Saudi Arabia. So this is crazy. It's crazy that the U.S. is committing all these war crimes, but it's not the first time. I mean, they've done war crimes before. Big reason why they went after Julian Assange was because he was exposing U.S. war crimes. So we can't forget these things. And we also have to remember that all wars are banker wars. Never forget that. All right, ladies and gents, tonight's theme is what's the real threat? What is the real threat? So we have other stories we're going to get to. First and foremost, let's go ahead and give a shout out to the patrons. Thank you guys so much for your support. Really do appreciate you around here, fam. If you are interested in being a patron, I have 5 categories. We have the ultimate, Sabinators. There's Sabsters too. And don't forget about those Sabbies because they are not too shabby. Last but definitely not least are the members. All of their names are listed here, ladies and gentlemen, and you can also see their names scrolling across the bottom of the screen there on the ticker. Hey. All right. Okay, ladies and gents, we do have more to discuss. Like I said, tonight is going to be rather interesting, especially this next story that we got to get into. Let's go ahead and give a couple shout outs here to the super chats. Thank you so much, Roger. Love the Black Swiss Miss look. Give us Yodele he who. Okay. Oh, my shirt. That's funny. Thank you, Ira. The Telecom Act holds media hostage. And thank you, Deep Green. When flag draped coffins start coming in, the duopoly is in for a reckoning, the likes it hasn't seen, along with unruly oil and gas prices. Yeah, man, I'm not playing around. Like, it's not good for us. It's not good. It's not good for Iran. It's not good for the world. It's not good for anyone. But remember who started all this. Let's not forget that. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't had a chance to do so, do me a solid and smash that like button. And if you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share, just like a Care Bear. Also, if you haven't done so, please answer that poll question. I'm curious to hear what you think about that, when you think this war will end with Iran. And stay tuned to the end of the show because we are going to do call in tonight after the live stream. Okay, let's get into this next story. What if I told you that there was a secret society that involved Jeffrey Epstein and other people that you would not likely put together? People that you know and you're familiar with. What if I told you that this society involved people like Cory Booker and Donald Trump? Small kind of knit group here, but a very powerful society coming right out of Yale University. You see, when I say that some of these things are theater, please believe me, because Cory Booker puts on a good show that he's, fighting against Donald Trump. But I want you to understand that they are part of the same team. Let me show you what I'm talking about. This was something that I missed. The number of times that we went through the Epstein files, I missed this one. I didn't see every single email. And this is being brought back into the spotlight. Everybody needs to take a look at this. This letter was an invite to the New York Observer 25th anniversary. It was dated February 2013. Let's pay attention here. This would have been after the first arrest of Jeffrey Epstein, the first one, the Palm Beach arrest. So this would have been after that, okay? Dear Mr. Jeffrey Epstein, Jared Kushner, New York's youngest powerhouse publisher, is celebrating the 25th anniversary of the New York Observer on Thursday, March 14th. Mayor Michael Bloomberg will be by his side to toast you all. The Observer is honoring those who have defined and shaped New York since 1987. They are celebrating the city's best, brightest, and most influential in culture, media, and finance. The salmon pink pages are revered among New York's elite as the preeminent voice on power. You see this? Voice on power. The celebration is going to be one of those quintessential New York nights. We are looking forward to seeing you. XOXO, Peggy. Look at the names on this list. See if I can make it a little bit bigger for you guys, or maybe not. I'll read it out for you. Let's focus on this part here, right where it says Jared Kushner, publisher, Joseph Meyer, CEO. Look at the names on this list. Cory Booker, Arthur Carter, Georgina Chapman, Katie Couric, Lauren Santo Domingo, Larry Gagasuian, Mariska Hargitay, Caroline Herrera, Katie Holmes, actress Katie Holmes, Woody Johnson, Peter Kaplan, Ray Kelly, Ken Curson, Matt Lauer. Remember Matt Lauer from the Today Show? Remember he was accused of sexual harassment? That's why they let him go. Blake Lively. Uh-oh. Terry Ludgren, Peter Martins, Cynthia McFadden, Sean Parker, Ron O. Perlman, Steven Schwartzman, Laura Spencer, Steve Tisch. Remember Steve Tisch? Remember we revealed he was in the Epstein files and other emails? Okay. All right. Donald Trump, Ivanka Trump, Harvey Weinstein, and George C. Wolf cordially invite you and a guest to join them at the New York Observer 25th anniversary. All of these people are part of the same team. Now, of course, this was before Donald Trump ran for president. But the point here is to show you the class perspective and the class dynamic. All these people, this is the second time we have seen Cory Booker in some other type of elite circle. We talked about him being connected to that secret society that Peter Thiel has. Now we're going to talk about another secret society that Cory Booker, we know, was a part of. Let's get into this, ladies and gents, because I want you to understand how all these people are connected. And when we talk about what is the real threat, let's get into it. Unlocking Shabtai, the evolution of the Yale adjacent Jewish intellectual society. See, folks, and by the way, this is from Yale Daily News. This is not from, some like random op-ed. This is from the Yale Daily News. So let's get into it. Okay. Understanding the origins and influence of Shabtai, the organization that hosted Ben Gvir on Wednesday. So this was in 2025. Okay. All right. When I tell you that people are selected, this is what I'm talking about. 1997, Cory Booker, Noah Feldman, Ben Karp, Michael Alexander, and Rabbi Shmuley gathered in an apartment of the Taft Apartments of the inaugural meeting of the Chai Society, now known as Shabtai. The Chai Society, intention upon its founding, was to serve Yale's community as an open leadership society for discourse and debate. Originally, while informed by Jewish values imparted by the co-founder Hecht, the society's stated goal was to be a space welcoming all religions and perspectives. But that changed, ladies and gents. Today, despite being primarily composed of Yale students and faculty, Shabtai has no official affiliation with Yale. Still, its proximity to Yale's campus, the organization's current home, is the historic John C. Anderson Mansion on 442 Orange Street. These ties have in recent years mirrored both Rabbi Shmuley, Hecht, and Yale in controversy. Earlier that week, Shabtai invited right-wing Israeli politician Itamar Ben Gvir to speak at the Anderson Mansion. I think you all remember that. That was a big deal when he showed up there. Today, Shabtai notable affiliates include Cory Booker, former Republican presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy, political strategist Nicholas Mudson, to name a few. Let's just pause here for a second. Cory Booker was created. Vivek Ramaswamy was created. J.D. Vance was created. These people were created. This is what I mean. They get certain people in these societies, and there's all different types of societies, but they get certain people in these societies that they feel are going to be the best to put forward and do their bidding. See, now you see that Vivek Ramaswamy and Cory Booker were a part of the same society, same organization. Okay? But when you see them yelling, like Cory Booker was on the Senate floor and he gave this long ass speech and he was going off about how bad and evil Trump is and how bad the Republicans are, you need to understand these people are a part of the same club. That performance that you saw from Cory Booker, he is acting. Everyone is playing a role. So Cory Booker, they say, well, you go in the Democratic Party. Vivek Ramaswamy, you go in the Republican Party. And yeah, we're going to spat with each other on camera. But behind the scenes, we still bros. In recent years, Shabtai has expanded to a global scale, operating chapters in Tel Aviv, New York, Boston, Washington, and Chicago. However, its proximate relationship to Yale continues to define its organizational proceedings and external outreach, which poses the question, where is the line drawn between Shabtai as an independent organization and Yale as an institution? Right? So it gets into some of the background here about how it was created. I want to jump forth a little bit here. Here we go. The three began reaching out to other potential interested students. Now, this included Feldman and Cory Booker, who both had just returned from studying abroad at Oxford. See how all these people travel in the same circles? This is what I was saying. A lot of times, a lot of these politicians that you see, they tend to be recruited from these same institutions: Yale, Stanford, Harvard, some of them Howard University, Oxford. They usually come from these elite institutions. A lot of them do. What you saw happen with a lot of those grassroots campaigns with like members of the squad, that's not the norm. It's not the norm that people who may have gone to like a public college or maybe, didn't graduate from a four-year institution. That's not the norm that people like that get into Congress. A lot of these people are selected. Feldman, now Felix Frankfurter, professor of law at Harvard University, see how they all stay in the same circles, said he believed it was his and Booker's connections to El Cham and his close relationship to Shmuley and Chabad Rabbi, who led El Cham, that made them ideal partners to kickstart what would become the Chai Society at Yale. Cory Booker has been deep into this for a long time. I'm showing you this to make you understand something. Going to Cory Booker and saying to him, stop funding the genocide, stop doing this, stop doing that. When it comes to Israel, that is not going to work. Cory Booker has been pro-Israel and has been defending Israel. This is going at least all the way back to college. Do you see what I'm saying? This is the role that he was assigned to play. He's not going to change. Let's go more here. Contrary to private clubs, the secret societies at Yale, which were members only, our ambition was to totally change the notion of a society into a space where the members' responsibility and privilege was to bring the world together. See this? Responsibility and privilege. In January 1997, the five co-founders met in New York to sign a rental lease for an apartment in the Taft. Now, this was going to become Shabtai's first official headquarters in New Haven. That same month, the society hosted its first meeting. Let's go on here. Let's talk about the growth and the evolution here. With the end of that spring in 1997, Feldman and Cory Booker's graduation, they graduated from Yale. In 1999, Alexander also graduated. As its initial founders went forth into the professional world, Hecht, remained in New Haven to continue building the organization alongside his wife and co-director Toby Hecht. Let's continue on here. I want to get to the part where they talk about Vivek more here as well. The organization's proceedings also became more markedly religious after the original founder's departure. This is where things start to change. Weekly Torah and Talmud readings began to accompany Shabbat dinners and speaker events. So see this? In 2010, then law student Vivek Ramaswamy, who ran for the Republican presidential nomination in 2024, began attending Eliezer events and forged a close relationship with Hecht. He has since cited Hecht as one of his closest friends alive and continues to herald the organization as an essential influence in his personal and professional development. Vivek Ramaswamy is never going to say no to giving money to Israel. Is it all starting to make sense now? In a way, these people were groomed. They get them early. Remember the video I showed you of Cory Booker at the AIPAC event, and he was telling them how to get, Black people to support AIPAC. And he said, you got to get them when they're young. You're going into the colleges, but maybe starting high school. They get them early. A spokesperson for Ramaswamy wrote to the news that Ramaswamy and his wife fondly remembered their great times at Shabtai, attending the Shabbat dinners, animated by spirited discussions that often went late into the night and cemented new friendships that have lasted for years. So also the wife too. You see how this goes? Here's the big one. This takes us back to that email that I was just showing you. In 2014, Eliezer encountered a definitive turning point as an organization. Benny Shabtai, an Israeli businessman, mirrored in controversy due to accusations of an alleged relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, donated $1.7 million to endow the group. Now, let's go back to that letter. This email was addressed to Jeffrey Epstein. He was invited to this New York Observer 25th anniversary. He was invited by, there's Cory Booker. His name is there. Donald Trump's name is also there. And I want to point something out. This goes to show you that Cory Booker, it was not only friendly and had some type of relationship with Donald Trump, but he also was friendly with Ivanka Trump and Harvey Weinstein. All of these people are in the same club, and they pretend to despise each other when they're in front of the camera. But behind the scenes, they have their own elite circles that they are a part of. Now, Cory Booker is not a billionaire, but Cory Booker is adjacent to these people. You see how he's connected to all these billionaires? I really think Cory Booker, if the political thing didn't work out for him, he probably could have been an actor because he puts on a hell of a performance. That's what I believe. All these people, Matt Lauer, you got journalists. Notice how you had journalists here too. So you had journalists, you had billionaires, you had a politician, all in the mix. Let's go back to it here. Hecht explained that Shabtai was a longtime friend of his who understood the importance of having Jewish presence in different pockets of the world. Hecht added that Shabtai was very intrigued by what he was building at Yale for the Jewish community. So here goes the connection again with Jeffrey Epstein. Shabtai affirmed this statement in an interview with the News, stating that he met Hecht when the rabbi was only 13 years old. Hecht came to his office every Friday to put Telfin on him, Shabtai said. So we got to look at a lot of this stuff, guys. Now, there's a lot more here, but the connection that you need to make and you need to understand is this is now the second so-called secret society, I guess not secret anymore. This is now the second one that we see Cory Booker a part of. Look at this, expanding beyond Yale. We were always very centered on campus, but we started to do different events if there were interested alumni in Israel, Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, or New York. There you go. Why is this important? Okay. Because of what Representative Anna Paulina just said on Stephen A. Smith's show. Listen to this.
I was also literally the only member of Congress leading the charge on declassification of the Jeffrey Epstein files in January of last year. Mm-hmm. And then ultimately what I saw, and this could probably be an entire new segment between you and I on like what actually transpired, but, you know, we uncovered destruction of evidence under the former deputy director of the FBI. I had documented that. No one paid attention. I was pressing Attorney General Pam Bondi for the release of the Epstein files, publicly calling for its release. And then at a certain point, it then became political. And then, you know, we have been conducting the investigations and oversight, but the fact is what the American people are not hearing is that we are never going to have the full files because there was actively a cyber attack that occurred when Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein were under investigation in New York. And people seem to forget that that happened. So I actually don't think that we have the full deck of cards here specifically pertaining to Jeffrey Epstein. And I was actually in the room with members of Congress, both Democrat and Republican, the Speaker of the House, and then some of the victims and the victims' attorneys when, you know, you had members of Congress asking, okay, well, can you name names, or specifically if the president was involved, of which the president was exonerated. And at that point in time, they also notified us that there was a pending lawsuit with Deutsche Bank.
So let me make something very clear. She told you that you're never going to get all of the Epstein files or see all of them because some of them were destroyed in a cyber attack. Okay, let's say that's true. Who did that cyber attack? Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you the real truth. The reason why you're never going to see all those files and you're never going to get all the names is because it exposes too many people. I just told you about this whole society here where all those people were connected, politicians, journalists, billionaires, all one lump group that pretend to hate each other on camera, but they were totally fine with each other behind the scenes. This is why you don't have the full Epstein files, because it includes some people with some other people that they're not supposed to be with. Do you get what I'm saying? When JD Vance goes on to Joe Rogan and he says, well, you know, some of the names are redacted because we don't know if that person was a victim or not, and da-da-da-da-da. Okay. That could be the case for some of it. However, it's not the case for all of it. They are protecting certain names in those files. And I think ultimately what they don't want you to see, besides who some of those other names are, is that they don't want you to see that some of these people who are supposed to hate each other politically, publicly, behind the scenes are buddy-buddy, and behind the scenes are probably doing some dirty stuff. She telling you, she really letting you know. You're not going to see it all. Just like you weren't supposed to find out that, what I just showed you, that email. You weren't supposed to know that. You weren't supposed to know that all those people were friends and they were all a part of one group. You're not supposed to know that some of these people are in these secret societies. So when I ask you again, at the end of the day, what is the real threat? Because see, the real threat is not the people asking for transparency, despite what Marco Rubio and clown friends will tell you. The real threat is these elite people in their secret societies and their secret clubs doing a lot of criminal activity. That's the real threat. And there's no accountability for it. These are just the things we know about. Imagine the things you don't know about. That's the real threat. That the people, some of them who are at the very tippity top, that 0.01%, and those who are adjacent to them, that these people have been involved in some devious shit. And I think that includes some of those senators too. to be honest with you. And that's why you're not getting all the names. Because if we saw all of it, I think people would revolt. I really do. We have to remember at the end of the day, we don't know these people. And they're going to look out for their class interests. Cory Booker, his role is to basically be the pretend fighter. So he'll make these long speeches on the Senate floor. He'll give these interviews where he's like, we're going to fight back against Donald Trump, and I'm going to do everything in my power to do that. You know, his eyes are about to jump out of his head. That's his role. In reality, he's not going to do anything. He's going to do what his paymasters tell him to do. You really believe that Cory Booker is fighting back against Donald Trump when you see they're part of the same team? Donald Trump and all his craziness and all his insane and scary policies, his job is also to make sure that nothing else happens on the other side. His job is also to make sure, well, let me just make things as hellish as possible so people don't leave the two-party system. Because think about it. They just bounce back and forth off of each other. He's just trying to get as much money and wealth as he can for himself. Donald Trump don't care about the United States of America. He don't care about Americans. He's just enriching himself. Vivek Ramaswamy's role was to make you believe that there was like this Trump alternative candidate when he was running for president in the Republican primary, to make you believe that this is someone that was going to expand on Donald Trump's policies, but do it in a different way because he was younger. And because he was younger, he was kind of cool and he got you and understood you too. Oh, and by the way, he was against the war with Russia and Ukraine. That was his role. They all have roles. They're just actors. I would say the politicians that you usually don't hear about, they probably don't have a script. But the ones that you hear about the most and you see doing interviews the most, a lot of them have scripts. They're playing roles. So people need to see this. People need to understand that you're not going to move people like Vivek. You're not going to move people like Cory Booker on this Israel issue. You're not going to. It's ingrained in them. If they were a part of that society, they're not going to budge on that. So despite what Marco Rubio will tell you, because, you know, we got to talk about that as well. The real threat is not the communists, the socialists. The real threat is the people who are part of these secret clubs, these secret societies, the rich people, these clubs. Why isn't Marco Rubio calling out those organizations? That's the real threat. The real threat is when you have billionaires and trillionaires that are part of this Epstein cabal. That's the real threat. They have to continue to keep everybody divided politically so that you don't see that. At the end of the day, it's one big club. Let's go to some of the comments here, ladies and gents, and then we'll get to the next story. Eric, can we go to part 2 for Type VNC? Thank you, Heather. Please do a story on Larry King Jr. and the Franklin scandal. This rising Republican in the 80s was the Black Epstein. Oh, interesting. I haven't heard about that. I have to look into that. Sandra said, Sabrina, you opened my eyes to Cory Booker. You came with the facts and evidence. Yeah, this is someone I saw in person. I saw Cory Booker in person when he was running in 2020. He was in New Hampshire. I was trying to go to as many of those events that were in New Hampshire during the primaries as possible. And Cory was the fakest one. And it was so obvious. Thank you for the super chat. No name. It's one big club and I don't want to be in it. There you go. Thank you, Kenman. I'm surprised about Katie Holmes. Again, we don't know these people. Milarvin says both parties are the same and we are getting played. There you go. And thank you, Measured Man. The world is a stage. There you go. Yeah, Kyrie was right. He was right about that. Okay, let's get to the next story here, ladies and gents. Do me a solid if you haven't done so. Be sure to answer that poll question that's pinned to the live chat and smash that like button, and we'll keep it moving and grooving. Okay. Right now, Donald Trump is coming after Zohran Mamdani because Zohran Mamdani said that if Netanyahu steps foot in New York City, he is going to arrest him. Benjamin Netanyahu apparently has announced that he is coming to speak to the UN in New York. So this is really important for people to see how this is going to shake out. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you the pushback that is coming from this, what they're saying can be done legally by the mayor and what cannot be done legally. But let's go to this interview here. This is where he was questioned about this, about arresting Benjamin Netanyahu. Listen to what he said here.
Last question on this topic. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is perhaps planning to visit New York for the UN General Assembly. You pledged during your campaign and after you won to order his arrest to comply with the International Criminal Court warrant. What will happen if he comes in September?
Look, I believe that Prime Minister Netanyahu belongs in The Hague. He's a war criminal who has been charged by the International Criminal Court. And what you will find is that is an opinion that is held by many purely because of what his actions have wrought over these last many years. I've also said that I will follow the laws that we have here in New York City because I believe that there's an importance in following the law as a leader who presides over our city, and that's something that I plan to do.
Meaning? I'm sorry, I don't understand what that means.
Meaning that whatever the law allows me to do in New York City, that's what we will do, but we won't be writing our own laws to that end.
What?
Now, there's a reason for this part here, whatever the law allows to do. So hold on to that, because I'm going to explain to you one of the things that is being said as to why the mayor cannot actually do that to Benjamin Netanyahu.
Does the law allow you to do?
That's an active conversation with our legal department in seeing what the prospects are we have here in our municipality. However, what we've seen at the national level is a desire sometimes to write your own laws, to go outside of the bounds of legality. That's not something we have an interest in.
I mean, normally when people come to a UN General Assembly, they're granted a sort of amnesty because it is the seat of the United Nations. Is that what you're thinking that you'll honor, or you're actively looking to see if you can actually arrest him?
Let's pause here. So here's one of the issues, right? I looked into this myself. Apparently, like when a world leader is coming to speak at the UN in the United States, apparently they are granted some type of amnesty. The other issue that I read about as well was that the only person that would be able to arrest Benjamin Netanyahu would be the federal government, meaning like Donald Trump could do that, but of course he's not going to do that. Now, in comes this question about an arrest warrant, because Benjamin Netanyahu does have a warrant out for his arrest from the ICC. The problem that we then run into as the United States, the US is not really part of the ICC. And so the pushback that is being said, if you look up the research about this, is that we would not be able to arrest him. The only one that could do that is the federal government, meaning the president of the United States. But then there's also the fact that the United States does not recognize the ICC. I feel as though this is a loophole. The fact that the US can choose not to recognize the ICC in itself is a problem when you have other NATO allies that do recognize the ICC. So when people ask, well, how do you fix that? Well, first of all, the damn rule needs to change. There should have been a push for that a long time ago. So when he says he's going to look and see what the law allows him to do, that's what people have to understand. Because when I looked this up and I read into that, it said that the only person that can do that would be the federal government, not the mayor. Let's continue on.
I think we are looking at all of our legal obligations, and one of them is with regards to the United Nations. But the other part of this is we're not talking about a personal assessment of Benjamin Netanyahu. We're talking about the International Criminal Court and the fact that they have a warrant out for this prime minister's arrest. And I think it's important to talk about the weight that has as a charge, and also that as the mayor of New York City, I'll be following the laws of New York City.
Okay, where's Bane when you need him? I was born in the dark. You only visit the dark. That's the best I could do, Bane. I'm sorry. So now we run into the situation where he was questioned about this again more recently, and he doubled down on what he said. And I think this right here really made Donald Trump furious. We're going to get to Donald Trump's statement in just a second.
So I was reading your interview over the weekend and wanted to ask you more about your conversations with the your legal department about potentially arresting Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. I just want to know just what your feelings are when you look at, for example, your administration also reaching out to the prime minister of, the ambassador of Iran, just how you, reconcile the two of being so critical of the Israeli prime minister, but at the same time meeting with the ambassador of Iran.
So I want to first clear up a few things. Our administration did not reach out to the prime minister of Iran. Our administration.
You see how they just lie? She just be making stuff up. Oh, you met with the ambassador of Iran. Also, let's say that were the case. Is Iran committing genocide? No, thank you.
Received a request from the Iranian consulate. And as soon as I heard of that, I made it clear that we are not meeting and we will not meet with the Israeli consulate here in New York City. And when it comes to Benjamin Netanyahu, we're speaking about someone who's the subject of an international criminal court arrest warrant. And he's the subject of this arrest warrant for alleged crimes against humanity, for war crimes, and he's the architect of the genocide against Palestinians in Gaza as Israel's prime minister. These are not facts of my personal assessment, they are facts of public record. And I believe that when someone is charged with an international criminal court warrant, it's something that should be taken seriously, whether it's Benjamin Netanyahu or it's Vladimir Putin or whomever else. What I've also made clear is that my administration will follow all applicable local laws. That is our commitment. That is something that we will follow through on when it comes to an adherence to local law. And that's all I have to add on that.
Thank you. And now we're going to go to Heather from News 12.
Are you looking at arresting anybody else on that list of people who've committed international war crimes?
My point is that if someone is charged with a warrant by the International Criminal Court for these kinds of crimes, that's something I believe that should be honored. And I've also said that we will follow our local laws.
So this has caused a lot of, anger from Donald Trump. He's very upset that Zohran is saying this, but it's not something that's new. He said this when he was running for mayor. I don't know why people are surprised to hear this now. They're like, I can't believe he said that. He said that when he was running for office. Do people have ears? Are we the only ones that have ears and eyes? Let me know. Let me know. So he said that back then, right? Netanyahu really wants to call his bluff. I just want to show you some of the pushback that he's getting from this. First of all, Rachel, who I still remember as Rachel from The Real World. She was a part of The Real World San Francisco. That was the season, one of the earlier Real World seasons that had, Pedro on it. I'm not sure if everybody watched The Real World, but Pedro was one of the roommates, and he had AIDS. And I remember at the time, that season was very powerful because some of them are wondering they're living with someone that has this disease, and, how's that going to go? Rachel was, conservative back then, conservative, Christian, etc. But I want you to hear what she says here, because I'm just going to push back on her because she was also kind of all over the place back in her day. Listen to this.
I will say this. Look, Mondani is a leftist. He's a socialist. The reason why he's not saying, he hasn't done much and he's been inciting all this, anti police and anti-ICE and anti-law enforcement. That's what socialists do. They like violence. Violence enables them to have more power. And he's running the city like he's running Cuba. And we're going to see the results of that soon. But also, Bibi should not he should not weigh in on this. He should not weigh in on a lot of things in American politics. Everybody should stay in their lane.
So let's talk about staying in lanes for a minute, right? Because this kills me, Rachel. And I understand you've grown up and all this kind of stuff. But Rachel, boo, I remember Rachel, again, she was conservative, but she was kind of wild. Rachel used to do these things where she would lay down in the middle of the street and she would open her legs, and Puck was one of the cast members. Puck would ride on his bike and then jump over her body through her legs and all this kind of stuff. So it's just, it just kills me how sometimes, people get older and they forget that they were once young. Like that just drives me crazy. Like they forget some of the things that they used to do. Cause let's keep it real, Rachel, you was all over the place. Okay. Cause video was forever. I remember. But she's one of the ones that is more aligned with like Marco Rubio, right? So she's one of the Cuban Americans that is heavily against like communism, socialism because of Cuba and all that kind of stuff. And you guys get where I'm coming from, right? But you're like in Wisconsin with Sean. Why are you concerned about what this mayor is doing in New York City? Anybody else ever pick up on this? People are talking as though Zohran Mamdani is president of the United States. He's not. People are talking as though he is a Congress member. He's not. People talk like he's the governor of New York. He's not. Zohran is a mayor. And I've never seen just so much focus on a mayor. It's just like, it's really weird, okay? Really, really weird. So, Rachel be all over the place. You was out there flashing people with your butt and showing your hoo-ha on the real world. So stop pretending like, you was all like innocent and all that shit. That just drives me crazy. Listen to what John Yoo says about this. He's turning the tables. He believes that Zohran is the one who should be investigated and arrested.
After the 9/11 attacks, the Bush administration, and I was an official of the Justice Department, we participated with Congress to pass a law that prohibits any official in the United States from cooperating with the ICC. So what Mayor Mamdani is calling on is for the officials of New York City, including himself, to violate federal law. So in the end, it's not Netanyahu should be arrested and investigated. I'm not trying to exaggerate here. The mayor is violating the American Servicemen Protections Act passed in 2002, and the Justice Department should be investigating him. And the president under that law is authorized to use all necessary means to prevent any American or ally from being handed over to that court. So if Mayor Mamdani wants to spend a lot of time dealing with FBI agents and the Justice Department investigators, well, he just started that. He just launched that whole process for himself and the residents of New York City.
But he's a sad.
So now all of a sudden we care about the law and all this kind of stuff. You see how they all coming in to protect this genocidal monster? It's wild, man.
Heavy guy, right? You don't get elected mayor of the biggest city in the world if you're a dummy. So what is this? It's just some kind of a political catcall for him?
Yeah, I don't know if I can add more than what you've heard from other political analysts and guests who've said that Mayor Mamdani is appealing to this large sort of socialist-friendly base of young people in New York City who are becoming increasingly, I'm afraid, anti-Semitic and anti-Israel. But the question is he acting consistent with the law of the United States? And he is not, and he should be investigated by the Justice Department, by the Trump administration because of that.
So first of all, they kill me with the whole anti-Israel thing, because you don't have to be pro. Why do I need to be pro another country? Why do you have to be pro another country? I don't hear people in there saying, so-and-so is anti-Brazil. This person is anti-Guam. It's just very weird. It's like, I live in the US. Why do I need to be pro-Israel? It's very strange, guys, ladies and gents. Again, follow the money on this one. Follow the money on it with me. Donald Trump, very, 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 very upset about this. Let me show you his statement here. President Trump declared that if Benjamin Netanyahu visits the U.S., no one will be allowed to arrest him. Zohran responded by saying that if Netanyahu enters an area under his authority, he would order an immediate arrest, arguing that he considers Netanyahu a war criminal. Trump fired back, saying that the U.S. is under authority of the federal government and decisions of that nature will not be made by individual politicians. He added that anyone attempting to have Netanyahu arrested would face serious consequences, including possible removal from office. Now, I'd have to look into this because I don't know if the president can remove a mayor. But this is just Trump just talking shit as usual, right? My whole thing is this. What is the bigger threat? Is the bigger threat, or what is the real threat? The real threat is not Zohran Mamdani, a mayor of a city. The real threat is the Epstein class, which Benjamin Netanyahu, that includes him too. That's the real threat. I'm seeing people want to use more authority and pressure against a mayor than they are against the Epstein class. A lot of this that you're seeing, this rhetoric that's coming from Donald Trump and, of course, Marco Rubio, a lot of this stuff where they're trying to talk down on the little people, because Zohran is still part of the 99%. Donald Trump is not. All this hostility that they're throwing our way to the 99%, to me, that's a distraction from what they did not do to the Epstein class of people. That's what that is to me. There's no accountability. They are not in the United States, maybe in some of the other countries like Norway, but there hasn't been any accountability for those that are listed these crimes in the Epstein files. They're not coming down on them. I don't see any threats going toward Howard Lutnick. In fact, he's still a part of the Trump administration. So I feel like they are cracking down hard on the 99% to make up for the Epstein files. This is a direct response from the Epstein files. That's what this is about, in my opinion. They're not going to go after the big guys. So in turn, they try to go after the little people. That's what I see happening here. Now, Israel has responded here. I want to go ahead and show you this. Israel's ambassador to the UN, Danny Danon, with a warning to New York Mayor Mamdani. This is what he said to Zohran. Again, this is crazy.
Mr. Mamdani, you have chosen the opposite of democracy. You have chosen collaboration with terror. Well, Mr. Mamdani, I have news for you. Your threat has no legal basis. We all know that the United States is not a member of the ICC. We have all read the UN headquarters agreement. Muammar Gaddafi, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, Yasser Arafat, they all stood at this podium. They were dictators and sponsors of terror. Benjamin Netanyahu is not. He is the elected prime minister of a democracy fighting terror. Yet you, Mr. Mamdani, pretend he is the one who should be arrested for standing here. Your threat is empty. It's a political theater designed to excite your radical base and distract from your failures in running this city. We have seen this playbook before. Like Mr. Khan from the ICC, Mr. Mamdani attacks Israel leader to distract from his own failures. Your grand election promises remain slogans. Instead of delivering for New Yorkers, you target Israel. So spare us the threat. The person who should be arrested is not our prime minister, is you, Mr. Mamdani. So let me make it very clear. Prime Minister.
So you guys get the point. He wants to arrest Zohran Mamdani. And I'm telling you, he killing me with that fake accent. They be killing me with this accent. Like, I'm just like killing me with that. Another one, Assemblyman Simcha Einstein is asking New York Attorney General Tish James to investigate whether Mamdani violated state law by ordering a city agency to explore arresting Netanyahu. This is where we're at now, folks. You see this? Okay. So first of all, pause. Letitia James needs to be focused on stopping people from losing their homes to deed theft in New York City. How about you focus on that shit? Because from what I understand, there's thousands of cases that you need to rummage through. So maybe Letitia James, you need to focus on that. The other thing here, it is just wild to me how all of a sudden people have all this, access to legal documents and all this resources right in front of them. Let me see what we can do to punish this guy. But all of a sudden, but it is interesting to me when the Epstein files were dropped, all of a sudden, I don't know nothing about nothing. I can't do nothing. Don't have no resources. My hands are tied. Again, whether you like Mamdani or not, this is what this is, guys. They're going after the 99% instead of going after the elite. All this to try to run cover for Benjamin Netanyahu. This is absolutely insane. So I ask you again, what is the real threat? The real threat is not a mayor of New York City who is trying to do things that is going to benefit and better the working class people there. And from what I've seen, and I haven't even made videos on all these things because there's other things that happen that he's done. But from what I've seen, Zohran seems to be moving pretty quickly and doing much for the working class people, which is what people elected him to do. So is the real threat him? No, the real threat is the Epstein class. Because when those Epstein files were released, Trump and all them, and I don't know nothing about nothing. It's a hoax. Well, there's nothing to see here, folks. Stop talking about it. These people are full of it. Full of it. And so I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen if Netanyahu comes here. But from what I read, it seems as though because he is a world leader, that only the federal government can actually arrest him. I don't know. Maybe that's why he said he's looking into other things that can be done. But the reality is, Trump and friends think that this is actually going to help Israel and this makes Mamdani look bad. It actually makes them look bad. It makes Netanyahu look even worse, and it makes Trump look worse. Because you willing to bend over backwards once again to protect a known criminal and killer. Once again, think about that. Let's go to some of the comments here, ladies and gents, and then we're going to get into this crazy Rubio story. I've been warning people about this one. Thank you for the super chat, Roger. Yes, New York Post, but we've been saying for a while behind the scenes. Oh, I think I read that out of order. Thank you for this one. Queensboro President Donovan Richards compared Zohran DSA comrades to white supremacists as a better rift between Dems spilled onto social media. Interesting. Thank you for this one. Long-standing complaint among minority lawmakers that the largely lily-white DSA ignores race in its crusade to grow its ranks and dismantle capitalism. Sounds like you should have that conversation with DSA. I'm not a part of any of these organizations. Thank you, Echo Pup, who's been a member for 20 months. Remember what George Carlin said. It's a big club and we're not in it. And thank you for this one, Roger. Yes, New York Post, but we've been saying for a while behind the scenes. Thank you, Average Canadian. Trump has sanctioned 8 ICC judges personally because they placed a warrant on Netanyahu with war crimes. Charles Drake says, I remember that Rachel girl. She was an idiot back then. Doesn't look like much has changed. I remember. Some of you remember. Thank you, Average Canadian. So USA is not part of the ICC that in itself should tell you everything you need to know. Why? Because you have committed crimes against humanity. And thank you, Roger. Only the New York governor can remove a mayor or county exec. All right. That's good to know. Interesting, ladies and gents. All right. Let's go ahead and get to the next story. Well, honey buns, I warned you about this one, that Marco Rubio announced that he was going to target what he called radical left voices. And I warned you guys that they will come after all of us. It won't just be the left. That's usually how this works. Marco Rubio has now named names. He has given the names of over 43 people and organizations that they are targeting. And I think you need to see some of the names on this list. If you didn't get a chance to see that video, you can see it here. Quick little segment here where Marco Rubio tells you what their intentions are.
Last November, the State Department designated 4 violent far-left extremist groups as foreign terrorist organizations, and there will be more designations soon.
So here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, they have released this 100-page document, and Clint Klippenstein went through it, thankfully so. And he summarized that for us, and I'll show you some of these names. Guys, I'm going to go ahead and tell you this. This is another example of something that started under the Biden administration, and the Trump administration expanded on it. This didn't start under Marco Rubio and Donald Trump. Under the Biden administration, you have to remember that the Biden DOJ went after Chairman Amali Yeshitela and the Uhuru movement. They called them Black radicals. This stuff has been done before. I think they still, they had one court case. I think they may have another one that's coming up soon. I'm telling you that because of this. If Democrats win in the midterms, and if they win in 2028, the Democratic Party isn't going to overturn this, because this is something they agree with too. They're not going to overturn this attack on left, quote unquote, left radical groups, because they also did something similar under the Biden administration. So let's go ahead and get into it. Shout out to King Klippenstein for this one. After political terrorism summit, the U.S. names 43 Americans plus groups. Guys, I'm telling you, and I'm going to tell you about what I notice is not on this list, because pay attention to who's on it and who's not on it, right? Some of these organizations that are not on it. A new State Department report on Cuba's campaign of subversion against the U.S. is a virtual government blacklist against left-wing Americans and groups. Linked to last week's Rubio-led summit on political terrorism, the report is unusually candid about the government targets. Yeah, this is the first time I saw them name all the names. Many of the most significant upheavals in recent American political history, from George Floyd riots to the rise of Antifa to the explosion of pro-terrorist activism on American college campuses, can be linked in some way, shape, or form to Cuban influence. We guys, you know, Marco Rubio for the longest time has had this hard on to go after Cuba. He's been waiting to do this for quite some time. What he is alleging is that the individuals that are named in this document are basically being persuaded by the country of Cuba. That makes absolutely no damn sense. People are doing the activism that they are doing because they are humanitarians and they see the injustice throughout the world. No, they don't support genocide. Surprise, most people don't. No, they're not okay with the U.S. starving people in Cuba and turning off their electricity. Surprise, people actually care about humanity. This is a talking point that they use. The Biden administration also used this with Russia. They said Russia has infiltrated and they're influencing the way Americans are thinking, or people are saying this because they're paid by Russia. They're saying it because they're paid by Cuba, and they never produce any receipts. They just can't accept the fact that Americans, especially younger ones, are incredibly resourceful, and we don't buy the propaganda anymore. Now, it goes on to say, as for who those supposed agents of Cuban influence are, the report is remarkably explicit. And I'll get to the names in a second. The implication is clear. Marco Rubio thinks there should be a modern day blacklist, McCarthy era investigation and prosecutions of the 1950s and their effectiveness at dismembering the Communist Party USA. The 100-page report titled Cuba, the Capital of the 21st Century Communism, was released this morning. What you're also going to notice is when we go through some of these names is that a lot of these people are also critical of Israel, called out the genocide. This is not just about Cuba, right? So you'll see this. An entire section of the report, numbering over 3 pages long, is dedicated to the Democratic Socialists of America. DSA serves as a particular potent illustration of the ideological victory of Cuba's effort to position itself as a spiritual capital of third worldist radicalism. This represents a significant advance for the Cuban influence operation. Havana no longer needs to rely solely on intelligence penetration or assets cultivation to exert influence over the United States. So again, you notice what he's doing? He's saying that Cuba has influence over these people, and that is why they are saying what they're saying, and that's why they're doing the activism that they're doing. This is just unbelievable. Okay? Through the report concedes that DSA was not shaped by the direct or tangible influence of the Cuban government, although the report doesn't say that, doesn't actually show it, and that it has organic ideological commitments. It insists that none of that is to say that the group has no ties to the Cuban regime and its influence network. So now they're trying to say that DSA may have ties to Cuba. This is laughable at best. Instead, the report points to the group's delegations to Cuba as evidence of Cuban influence. Whatever you think of DSA, it is hardly fringe. It claims as members prominent politicians like Zohran Mamdani and has helped nominate dozens of politicians like him to office in recent years. Bernie Sanders identifies as a democratic socialist, having him popularize the term, as do AOC, Rashida Tlaib, who are card-carrying members, as well as Mamdani. The Cuba report follows last week's Rubio-led international summit on political terrorism, which I talked about last time. So pay attention to this part here as well. Speaking at the summit, Rubio vowed that further new terrorist designations for left-wing groups would be coming soon. So here's what I want everyone to understand. They can call anyone a terrorist now. This is not just about people who are left-wing. And I also want to tell you they can change the definition of what it means to be left-wing. For example, if you're Tucker Carlson or Nick Fuentes, and they've been called out for criticizing Israel, Sebastian Gorka made it very clear that he does not consider them to be conservative anymore because they are criticizing Israel. So they can change what it means to be left-wing. If you support the Palestinian people, if you're against the war with Iran, if you're against the Greater Israel Project, they can call you left-wing radical too. See how that works? They can change the definition of what it means to be that. And they'll go after you as a terrorist as well. So let's get to the names. Suzanne Adelay, who is the president of the National Lawyers Guild. They noted her here, I guess, because it says she praised Venezuela's 2024 elections, participated in the Nuestra American Convoy. You see this? This is how I tell you, it's not just about Cuba. So pay attention. Amazon Labor Union, a labor union founded by Chris Smalls, participated in the Nuestra American Convoy to Cuba. Remember when we talked about a number of them, like, Katie Halper and all of them went down to Cuba to give them aid because the U.S. turned off their aid? That's the trip they're referring to. Chris Smalls was on that trip. Chris Smalls was also beaten and detained by the IDF when he was on the Freedom Flotilla. Make the connection, folks. This is not just about Cuba. So they're going after the entire union because Chris Smalls was a part of that trip. You see this? Antifa, of course, they were going to have Antifa on here. Assata's Daughters, that is a Chicago-based Black Lives Matter abolitionist offshoot that trains young activists in the radical spirit of Assata Shakur. Assata Shakur, by the way, was innocent. She fled to Cuba because the U.S. basically framed her and wanted to throw her in prison. Assata Shakur was innocent. People who know the history know that. Assata Shakur has also died. Association for Investment in Popular Action Committee. This is a different type of APAC, a California umbrella nonprofit that funds left-wing media and delegations to Cuba and Venezuela. You see how they coming after nonprofits? Karen Bass, the current mayor of LA. So Karen Bass, look at this. She was a Venceremos brigade organizer in the 1970s. So we going after people for what they did in the 1970s now? Honey, let me tell you something. Karen Bass is not radical, okay? She may be many things, but her ass ain't radical. So Karen Bass, Medea Benjamin, who's the co-founder of Code Pink. You guys know they've been coming after Code Pink multiple times on social media. Medea did release a video. I'll show you in just a second about this. Black Alliance for Peace. This is crazy. Look at what it says here. Activist group that maps U.S. military bases and police training facilities. Black Alliance for Peace is for peace, not for violence. Here it is. Look at this. Pay attention. Black Lives Matter. This includes the Global Network Foundation, the Grassroots Organization, and the school. All of them. There's different BLM groups. You see that? Says here again, they express solidarity with Assata Shakur. Anybody noticing a trend? You're not going to see anybody on here that was a part of the Epstein class. See how they cracking down on the little people, the 99%? Chesa Bowden, former DA of San Francisco. Changing Frequencies, a Black queer feminist-led group. Okay. Claudia Jones School is a DC-based organizing collective that conducts popular education, pro-Cuba. Code Pink, well, I told you they was going to come after them. Ben Cohen, who is the co-founder of Ben and Jerry's. They're targeting Ben Cohen because he attended the wedding of Neville Royal Singham and Jody Evans. So Roy Singham is married to Jody Evans. Jody Evans is one of the other co-founders of Code Pink. So now they're going after people for attending a wedding. This is McCarthyism. It's back. Goes on more. Claudia de la Cruz, she ran for president in 2024 under PSL. She's the co-founder of the People's Forum. Manolo de los Santos, co-founder of the People's Forum. DSA, they're going after Democratic Socialists of America, which is, because check this out. You know who you don't see on here? They're coming after DSA, but you don't see the Communist Party of America on here. That's still a thing. Pay attention, folks. Eve Ensler, a prominent playwright, also apparently went to Roy and Jody's wedding. Equality for Flatbush, a Brooklyn-based BLM group. Jody Evans, co-founder of Code Pink. George Floyd is dead. Do you guys see the insanity with this? Alicia Garza, co-founder of BLM. Amy Goodman, the host of Democracy Now!, who also attended Roy and Jody's wedding. And Amy Goodman has done some work over the years, but Amy Goodman is not radical. Does everybody see what is happening here? Let's go on. It's in alphabetical order. Haitian Women for Haitian Refugees. Isra Hersey, who is Ilhan Omar's daughter? IFCO, Pastors for Peace, Paul LaRudy, Zohran Mamdani. You see that? National Lawyers Guild, National Network on Cuba, Ilhan Omar, Party for Socialism and Liberation, that's PSL. This shit is wild, man. People's Forum, PSL and the People's Forum go hand in hand, by the way, right? So people who are usually part of PSL, also part of People's Forum. I wonder if Abby Martin has seen this list, because I know she does things with PSL. Hassan Piker. Hassan went on that Cuba trip. Ayanna Pressley. Ayanna Pressley from the Squad, Congresswoman. That's the second Congresswoman you see on this list. Again, because she praised Assata Shakur upon her death. Again, Assata Shakur was innocent. Even if she did, so what? See how they're coming after freedom of speech? Chris Smalls. Again, not just about Cuba. Remember, he was beaten by the IDF. Thousand Currents, also associated with BLM. Antonio Villarosca, Villagosa, former mayor of LA. Viva Palestina, US. Maxine Waters, third congressperson on the list. Maxine Waters? Maxine Waters isn't radical in any way, shape, or form. This is hilarious. Diane Wilson, another co-founder of Code Pink, and Witness for Peace Solidarity Collective. Now, you know what I noticed? I noticed who's not on this list. Like I said, Democratic Socialists of America is on this list, but he says they're going after communists, but the Communist Party of the USA is not on that list. Here's what I think is happening. They put people and organizations on this list that are actually effective and are well known. And they're doing it to make an example out of them. They're going to use them. They're putting Hassan Piker on this list to make an example out of him. Medea Benjamin on this list to make an example out of her. They're going to make an example out of the names that more people are familiar with. There are also people who were on that Cuba trip that are not on this list. I noticed that as well. So they're picking the people that most know. Yeah, Maxine Waters told homeless people to go home. I remember this. It's just like, this is crazy. Crazy. 3 Congress members, 3 or 4, I think I said, a couple of mayors. Medea Benjamin did respond to this. I want you to see what she said. This is absolutely crazy, guys.
The State Department has just released a horrible and scary 99-page conspiracy theory masquerading as a report on Cuba. It's complete nonsense, and it isn't just aimed at the Cuban government, it's aimed at Americans. The report claims that this tiny island is a threat to the U.S., a staging ground where Moscow, Beijing, Tehran, and U.S. activists supposedly converge. And it says nothing about the U.S. oil blockade that has plunged Cuba into a nationwide crisis, doubling infant mortality rates, imposing devastating collective punishment on the entire island. Instead, the report names organizations like Code Pink, Democratic Socialists of America, Pastors for Peace, the People's Forum, the National Lawyers Guild, smearing us as anti-American groups with imaginary links to Russia, China, and Iran. This isn't about national security, folks. It's about silencing dissent. It's about justifying even more aggression against Cuba while turning advocates for peace into suspects. We've seen this before. It's called McCarthyism, plain and simple. At Code Pink, we're now under investigation by the Treasury Department. Why? Because we brought medical supplies to children's hospitals in Cuba. Think about that. The people delivering medicine are under investigation, not the officials enforcing policies that deprive Cubans of medicine, food, fuel, and electricity. While Washington strangles Cuba's economy, pressures countries to expel Cuban doctors who have saved lives around the world, and ignores the overwhelming international consensus against the blockade, it wants you to believe that Cuba and peace activists are the threat. No. The threat is a policy of cruelty that has failed for over 60 years, and year after year, virtually in the entire world votes at the UN to end the blockade. It's time for Washington to listen, so here's our message to the Trump administration. Stop persecuting peace activists. Stop criminalizing humanitarian aid. Stop trying to silence Americans who believe diplomacy is stronger than domination. But most of all, end the blockade on Cuba, end the economic warfare and the threats of military intervention. Hands off Cuba.
First of all, let's give it up for Medea Benjamin, folks. Let's give it up for Medea. Medea does great work. Medea, could just retire and just chill, but she's been a known anti-war activist for a long time. And I have never seen Medea or anyone from Code Pink behave in a threatening way at all. People have to understand this list is just the beginning. They're starting with these people that are more known first. That's intentional. Then eventually they'll work their way towards others as well. It was weird to me that DSA was on that list, but the Green Party wasn't on that list. What that kind of says to me is that they put DSA on there because DSA just has been getting those wins. That's why they're targeting them. Because to me, that basically says they don't see the Green Party as a threat. That's what that says to me. It's only a matter of time before they find other reasons to come after people. Only a matter of time. And also, I think we got some feds. Because I'm going to put it to you like this. There are people that I have seen numerous times make statements on social media, done some things that I know the Trump administration would not approve of at all. And they're not on that list. So as I said before, I think some of these people are feds, not the people necessarily on the list, but I think some of the people, I think some of these people are feds or intel in activist spaces. And that's why they never get detained. They never get, you know what I'm saying? I pay attention to things like this. I've been paying attention to it. Ben Norton has too. McCarthyism is back. The U.S. State Department just published an insane McCarthyite report that maliciously portrays leading left-wing groups in the U.S. as supposed front groups for Cuba. This is part of an authoritarian contempt led by Marco Rubio to criminalize and persecute leftist groups that oppose the U.S. empire's crimes at home and around the world. That's really what this is about. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you something. This is that document here, if you guys were wondering about it. And I'll let you see what else they said about this. If Marco Rubio becomes president of the United States, we're fucked. Marco Rubio is very dangerous. I don't care what anybody says. Marco Rubio is very dangerous. Do you hear me? And there have already been rumblings that they want him to run. You are already getting a preview of what a President Marco Rubio would do. They're going to have this BS on lockdown. They're going to tell you what you can and cannot say. And they're going to implement pre-crime, as you hear it here.
As outlined in the United States counterterrorism strategy, we currently are addressing 3 major types of terror groups: narco-terrorists, Islamic or jihadi terrorists, and far-left terrorists. For all 3, we need to identify terror actors and plots before they happen.
Did you hear that? We need to identify it before it happens. Remember when I was telling you how they're going to use like these data centers, these surveillance centers, the flock cameras, all of that? That's for pre-crime. We are entering into an era of the movie Minority Report, where people will be prosecuted for crimes that it predicts they will make, but they actually haven't done anything. Why do you guys think the flock cameras are popping up everywhere and people keep tearing them down? Why do you guys think they keep building all these surveillance centers that they say are data centers? The United States, we have the most data centers than any other country in the world. We don't need all those data centers. This is what it's going to come down to. They're going to start like coming after everybody. So what's the real threat? Because the real threat is not those groups. Those groups have been around for years. The real threat is not Medea Benjamin, who walks around DC wearing a pink shirt and may ask Congress members tough questions. The real threat is this surveillance state, this authoritarian surveillance state that the Trump administration is trying to implement. And they'll start with these left groups and then they'll come for the rest of you. I'm warning you now. This is not a time to be like, well, at least they're not coming after me, because I seem to remember that under the Biden administration, a number of those right-wing voices were deplatformed and suspended. And then the moment that Trump won, they were allowed to come back in onto those platforms. It can pivot. I don't see the Democratic Party undoing this. Hakeem Jeffries doesn't like those groups either. He is the leader on the Democrat side in the House. Same thing with Chuck Schumer. So if the Democrats win back the midterms, Hakeem Jeffries is most likely going to become speaker. He is not going to undo this. You get me? In fact, what is going to happen is that they'll continue this and then they'll also implement it against the right. All of us will be implicated. That's the censorship threat. And that's why we got to push back against this, guys. This is why I say when people are like, well, we don't need to crack down on censorship. Things need to be, no, you need to be careful what you ask for. Authoritarian nation, guys. This is where we're at. It's concerning. All right, ladies and gents, we do have one more story for you, and then we will head on into call in. Smash the like. All right, let's keep it moving and grooving. All right, guys. And don't forget to answer the poll if you haven't had a chance to do so, because Eric will display that at the end. Okay. We have new information about Nolan Wells. A new video that was released to TMZ shows Nolan Wells at Horn Island doing something else. We will have to get into this video. The funeral for Nolan Wells just happened. At this point in time, that independent autopsy has not been released. It is supposed to be released on Wednesday. We'll have to stay tuned for that. But I think we need to dive into some other questions here. Now, you know, my girl, Nancy Grace. Nancy, I was waiting for her to dive into this. If you've never watched Nancy Grace, you guys know how Nancy can be. Nancy Grace is weighing in on some of this with Nolan Wells. I want to play what she said. Then I'm going to give you the update about that independent autopsy and that video that was just released with TMZ. For those who are not aware, Nolan Wells went with a group of friends to Horn Island off the coast of Mississippi there. Nolan Wells was found dead. The report was that he drowned. He did not get back on the boat with the friends. The friends said he stayed behind to talk to the girl. The girl said he got on the boat to go with the friends. They both can't be telling the truth. Listen to what Nancy said here. This is interesting.
F you. Okay. What do we know? And Caitlin Becker joining us from New York Post. Who is this mysterious friend girl? Because I want to talk to her.
I want to talk to her too, Nancy. The video is tough. The Snapchat is really tough because you do clearly hear an angry altercation. There is the assumption that we're working off of that it is Nolan. However, a few other friends have confirmed it's not Nolan. There's actually someone who said it was me, not him. So you have someone coming forward saying that is not him on the video. So then did no altercation actually take place, or is someone jumping in saying that's me to misdirect or to redirect us from looking at it? That's the one question. The other question that you asked is who's the girl? Her name is apparently, allegedly, Haiti. That's kind of all we know, just Haiti. someone purporting to be related to Katie went on social media, and this is not something that we've been able to confirm, nor have investigators confirmed it, but according to this person, Katie said, we met, we talked, he seemed like he was going back on the boat with his friends, and that was that. So Katie...
Okay, hold on
Katie's
right
side of the
there.
story-
Caitlin Becker. Caitlin. Right there.
Mm-hmm.
The girl, if she exists, says they talked, they chatted it up, probably flirting with each other, if accounts are true. Then he leaves to go back to the boat with his friends. But according to the friends, he stayed with her. Right there, that is a conflict. That doesn't fit. Now, Caitlin Becker and the rest of the panel, I want you to hear this.
Is that Nolan in the video?
I can't tell. It's too far away. But in that video, I feel like the voices are too clear. Like from the side, it's too clear for it to be that far away, for it to be Nolan arguing. And then also that altercation, it sounds just like my other friend that got into the altercation on the boat. And they were trying to, like, as he was in the altercation, I was calming him down. They were trying to get him out off the island. They were trying to get him back to land because he was just losing it.
Okay, so you've got, that's from our friend Harvey Levin at TMZ. So you've got half the people saying that is Nolan that's in an altercation and is getting thrown off the boat. And then you got half the people going, oh, no, that's not him. But to me, the clear problem is that critical moment where Katie, if she exists, says he went back with his friends. And the friends say, oh, no, we left. He wanted to stay with her. Right there. That is the first conflict. Both cannot be true. Those cannot mutually exist in truth. They're mutually exclusive. He can't go with them and stay with her on Horn Island.
See what I was saying? That's what I was talking about. Now, I don't know if anybody's ever watched like Nancy Grace. Like my mom used to watch her a lot, but I was waiting to see if she was going to cover this. And that was one of the things that really stood out to me. Like, how could he have left with them if he stayed behind with her? Unless the friends that he left with weren't those friends. Because now, and again, I don't know, but I'm going to show you this new video that just came out from someone sent it to TMZ. I swear at this time, I think TMZ is doing a better job than the police are with this. This new video from the day Nolan Wells went missing might reveal the first clues about who he was with during the last hours of the Horn Island 4th of July party. So here we go. I'll let it play all the way through and then I'll go back to it. And they're slowing it down right there. Now, I also want to tell you guys, for those who are not aware, it was, announced, let me pause it there, that there were over 300 people on the island that day. So you mean to tell me out of 300 people, no one saw anything happen to Nolan on that island? But now we have this video. So let's go ahead and bring in this right here. The arrow shows right here, allegedly Nolan. Okay, that makes sense because that looks like the shorts that he had on in the picture. Now, I'm looking at this boat. Is this the same boat that he came on with his friends? Were Nolan and his friends on this boat? There is a guy right here. I wish I could zoom in, but I can't. Right there. See over here at the boat, follow my cursor. See the guy standing right here? Okay. All right. Now let's look at the south of the boat. If we look at the southern end of the boat, we'll see it looks like there are two people right here, maybe female. So it might have been multiple people on this boat. The point that I'm trying to make is this. If that is Nolan Wells and this is a different boat, who are these people? Because right here, it looks like two women. Let's see who the guy is. Someone said in the chat, they're saying the guy is Katie's dad. I don't know for sure, but something isn't right, guys. If that's Nolan Wells, there he is on a boat. So if he's on a boat, remember they said the cause of death was drowning. Did he fall off the boat? But if he fell off the boat, Nolan knew how to swim. So I need someone to help me understand the drowning part, okay? How do you drown if you know how to swim? I go back to the Murdoch case in South Carolina. The reason why Mallory drowned was because she had blunt force trauma to the head. Mallory knew how to swim, but when the boat crashed, she was thrown out of the boat. Her head hit, those beams from the pier. Her head hit one of those beams, threw her backward into the water, and that's how she drowned, because she had blunt force trauma. How do you drown if you know how to swim? And that's the part nobody really answered. But they said, oh, it looked like it reported he drowned. But how did you drown if you know how to swim? Some people in the comments are saying alcohol. Alcohol. You can drown if you're under the influence of alcohol. Some people are saying stabbed. I mean, I don't know, guys. But there he is on a boat. And I'm looking at people in the water. Let's look through it again. There's people there in the water. Yeah, I mean, like I told you, it's not like there weren't many people there. They said there were over 300 people there that day. So if this is Nolan here, if that is Katie's dad, if we know for sure or not, I don't know. But if that is Katie's dad, what happened to Nolan after he left this boat? Also, when we're talking about drowning, you see all these people? Guys, am I alone in this? You see all the people in the water? So you mean to tell me someone drowns and someone falls in the water and no one sees it? He's not alone. There's plenty of people there. So what happened? We don't know. Yeah, Vamp says the whole thing doesn't add up. Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get it at all. Wayne said Nolan got back on the boat. They went to a house party. Two of the guys beat him with a pole, put him back on the boat, drove back and dumped him. Yeah, I was also told that video of them in the pool, I was also told that was AI, that wasn't real. So I don't even know. That has not been confirmed. I haven't heard the parents confirm that either. But the parents are speaking. I want to show you the funeral already happened. Now, remember, the autopsy hasn't been released yet. The independent autopsy hasn't been released. They decided to do an independent autopsy because the police automatically ruled it a drowning. And again, like I said, they're like, well, he knows how to swim. But people did gather for the funeral. I want to show you this.
Family and friends are paying tribute today to Nolan Wells.
Funeral services for the 18-year-old were held inside a Mississippi church today, his casket arriving ahead of his visitation earlier today. The services come 2 weeks after his body was found in the water near a popular barrier island following a 4th of July boat trip there with friends. And as the investigation into his death remains ongoing.
NBC News national correspondent Aaron Gilchrist joins us now from Ocean Springs, Mississippi. Aaron, talk about how loved ones honored Nolan Wells today.
Such an outpouring of support, Kate and Christine, for Nolan's family here today. We saw the sanctuary here filled with hundreds of people, so many of them former teammates from the high school that Nolan went to, and current, the teammates that he played with in college were there as well. A busload of them came in from the community college that he went to, really just to stand with Nolan's family and to show their support for the family, and really to embrace the memory of the person that they considered a brother. I do want you to hear from Nolan's parents. His father spoke about how much pride he had in his son and the young man that he was becoming, and his mother spoke about the light that he brought into every room that he entered.
In a world that can often feel dark, be like Nolan. Be the light that brightens the lives of those around you. Be the warmth for those who may be feeling the coldness of the world. Love deeply, protect fiercely, and welcome others with kindness.
I really wish, I told you guys, I really wish that Al Sharpton, they didn't have him a part of this, because when Al Sharpton comes to these things, it then becomes political, right? And this should not be political. Parents are trying to find out what happened to their son. And that's when I saw him, I was like, God damn. So listen to what the lawyer, Ben Crump, said about where is the independent autopsy, because that's what people have been waiting for.
As it relates to the independent autopsy, we are looking to have findings sooner rather than later. Obviously, you want stuff from the first autopsy because they had the body closer to time. We got the body almost 6 days later, Dr. Roger Mitchell. So there are limitations as to what he could do. So, you know, you do the best you can, but there are unanswered questions. So he's getting his report together. I believe it will be coming very soon. Yeah.
Let me take.
Okay, because that's what people have been waiting for, is that independent autopsy. From what I understand, I read that Tyler Perry has put money into that as well, to help with the autopsy there as well. Of course, Colin Kaepernick has this organization where they can do these independent autopsies. But from what I understand, it's supposed to be released on Wednesday. We'll see, you know, what the independent autopsy says. I don't know, you guys. This one to me is really weird. Just when I saw all those people around, I'm like, how did he drown? How could this kid have drowned with all those people? I don't know. And why are we just seeing that video of Nolan on that boat now? Also, another thing that was revealed a couple days behind here, but was that the boys that he rode there with, that boat had some technical difficulties when they were trying to leave. And so they had the boat, a GPS tracker showed the boat went back and forth because there was technical issues with the boat. Again, why wasn't that said in the beginning? I don't know. I don't know. We'll wait for that autopsy report and see what the independent autopsy says. But I find it very hard to believe that no one knows nothing. Quick announcement, ladies and gents, just a reminder, and I did send the what happened to Type VNC? Oh, Eric. Type VNC is no longer in the thing. I'll fix that. I don't know what happened. I might have clicked on the thing. I don't know what I did. Just a reminder, guys, this Saturday is the mutual aid workshop. I already sent it out in my newsletter last night. I'll send another reminder tomorrow and then on Friday. Yeah, I don't know what I did. I think I clicked on it. Sorry. That was me. Anyway, this Saturday, just a reminder that for those of you who choose to attend. And so the Zoom link and everything has been sent via my Substack in the newsletter, that type of thing. I don't know what's happening here. There we go. Yeah, here we go. This Saturday, if you want to learn how to do mutual aid, I do these. I try to do it once a month. My mutual aid workshop is July 25th at 11 a.m. Eastern time. And the Zoom link for that has been sent via my Substack. So just check out my Substack. If you weren't signed up for that by yesterday, you'll get it again on Wednesday and then on Friday, and it goes straight to your email. So yeah, let's check out that poll. Let's see when this is going to end. All right. When do you believe only 600 people voted? Guys, Eric, that can't be right. Oh, it is right. Why didn't more people vote this time? Guys, what is wrong? Do you not like the poll? Maybe they didn't like the poll. Okay, anyway, when do you believe the Iran war will end? 9% said before midterms, 10% said after the midterms, 33% said after Trump terms ends, and 48% said I'm not sure. So most people said they're not sure. Why didn't more people do the poll? Sorry, guys. I'm like obsessed with the polls. All right, guys, we are going to do call in, ladies and gents. So hang tight. I'm going to take 5. Eric's going to come on.
Maybe we need to do a poll about. Maybe we need to do a poll about what people thought of the poll.
Maybe I should. Maybe it was worded bad.
And a poll about
like,
who voted in the poll. And then we can dig down into some more polls. Yeah, I don't know. Weird. I don't know if it was really that few or there's weird technical stuff.
Maybe it was technical. That's happened before.
Just that kind of a night. We're going to call in and see how weird it gets there.
Oh.
No, I don't know. I saw the poll on my computer.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I think most people didn't like the poll. Anyway,
I'm going with technical problem.
Coco said the poll didn't show up when she first got on. Okay, that explains it.
Maybe it stopped after a while.
I guess so. All right, honey buns. I'm going to take 5. I'll be back, and then we'll do the call-in segment of the show.
All right, good deal. All right, so this is the part of our show here where we give Sabby a quick little break before we're going to be transitioning. Do a little adjustment there to the Zoom Hangout call-in part. So we used to do this on an app called Call-In. That's why we call it Call-In. Now we do it with Zoom because they got rid of the Call-In app. But Collins, you can tell us what you think if you want, or you can just come hang out and listen. We're creating, Sabby's creating that call-in room now, and then we'll be giving you out the link, and we will, and we'll be going over to there. But in the meantime, I'm going to yak for a second here, and then and read some super chats. Let's see here. What were we talking about today? Yeah, we had the theme tonight about the real threat. And, one thing you'll hear on these parts is connecting those dots, right? And you always want to connect up to where the real power is, right? The theme of the real threat. And, I would submit, and, I would call it the 11 demands point of view would be to see that real threat as that billionaire class. And what it makes me think of is if you go to the old 11 demands, there's what it makes you think of is the old pyramid graphic. So if you look at here at 11 demands Substack, there's an article in there called the 2 sets of interests, and the graphic for that one is this old feudalism then and now. And the idea is that there used to be a medieval feudalism with us, the people at the bottom, and going up to the monarchs at the top. If you look at the modern day corporate feudalism, we're at the bottom, and at the top are the billionaires, that billionaire class. And I would submit it's just super important to always make that connection, always follow the money, always connect the dots. And if you take any issue of our time, I think it really fits into this paradigm of connecting to power. If you want to fix it, you have to deal with the power. If you look at something like, what's happening in the Middle East, Israel, Iran, the whole thing, these wars, well, Israel's happening because it's a billionaire pet project. Anything with wars happening, it's like Julian Assange said, right? The point of these wars are not to win the war. The point of it is to make money, make profit. Those war profiteers make money off of these wars, off of war tensions. It's all about weapons sales. And when you connect those dots, right, you get to the real power. And then what you need to get to is a demand, because that gets you through to the next steps. If you look at, let me kick this back over, the old MCDS is a really important part of this. There it is, money, corruption, demand, solutions. It's really important to take it to demand. What are our demands? Our demands are stop the genocide, stop the wars, have a better system, a better country, a better society. When you make those demands, then you look at, okay, why aren't our demands, the demands of the 99% getting met? That's because of that billionaire class at the top. They're the ones pulling the strings. How do they do that? With the corruption and the fix that get into it. When you look at all that, is to fix the system, fix the corruption, fix the money. So I would say always put it through MCDS analysis, and that'll get you somewhere. All right, let me look at the super chats. Let me get on the right screen here. There we go. Take that one off here. We put this one on here. All right, thanks for this super chat from Helpful Harm, who says, how would he arrest Benjamin Netanyahu with Tish's Zio force, talking about Mandami? Yeah, I mean, I just think the BB thing is not a problem that the mayor of New York can solve, is kind of some of the bottom line of that, but that gets into a whole thing. We can talk about that in call-in. Thanks for the super chat, Kevin Wayne. No talk about the U.S.-led covert ops and regime change as context for, quote, socialist violence. Talk about Bolsheviks, not Nicholas II, Mao, not Chiang Kai-shek, Castro, not Batista, Kim, never Park Chung-hee. All right, thanks for that one, Kevin. And yeah, JB Font was in there noting right now, which we're going from Russiagate to Cubagate. And it's very telling that both of these, Russiagate, Cubagate, are about it's about a fight, the fight that they want us to have. They want us to have the red, blue, Democrat, Republican fight, so that we don't look up at the real power, at the billionaire class, the corporations, the megacorps, and that's where the real fight should be. Top 0.1% versus the 99%. We need to recognize that first, and then make our political fight be informed by that analysis, that recognition. Shout out to the Flower Bro, who's been a member for 4 months, who used their special member chat to say Nebel Singham is a billionaire who is the main financier of PSL. No hate to our PSL comrades, just pointing out a fact. Yeah, you could spend the whole evening talking about PSL and those types of groups. Thanks for this one. Peace, justice for all. Wadi Saeed wrote Crimes of Terror and argues that government practices in federal terrorism cases blur the line between peaceful activism and terrorism. Invite. All right. Thanks for that one. Yeah, and it certainly, brings up the point, where's the real terrorism, the real criminality? And thanks for this one from Jason, NY Varsity Sports. We'll see if we hear from him in the Zoom call and hangout, who says, Sabs, you rock. Watching from New York City. Tell Roger I'm going to need a ride tonight. Haha. And birthday. Maybe you can come and tell us what the birthday is about. And if Roger came and picked him up. I got a few more here in the queue. Let's see. What do we got left in here? You want to pick it up from Cloudness?
Sure.
Let me make you big again here. There we go.
Cloudness, thank you for the super chat here. This is what off code looks like in real time B1. Okay. And thank you, Davu. I wish Ben Crump wasn't a part of the case as well. Some people have said that too. Thank you, Truth Lady. What about maritime? Oh, what about maritime laws? They don't care. And thank you for this one. Why would they call the Coast Guard? They know if the crime happened on the water, then it would fall under maritime laws. Good question. I don't know. There's a lot of things to ask about this. I don't know. All right, ladies and gents, let's go into the call-in segment of the show. If you look at the live chat, the pinned link there, that's going to take us into the call-in portion of the show. I'm going to go ahead and open that while I am on the stream to make sure people can get in. And what you do, ladies and gents, is that once you get in, if you want to speak, if you're new, at the bottom of the screen, I mean, I have on my phone, it's at the bottom. There's an option to raise your hand, and that lets me know that you want to speak and to call on you. Eric, once you get in, I will make you a co-host. If you come in a little bit later, ladies and gents, and you want to join because the live chat doesn't display right away, you can also just go to sabrinasalvati.com. We usually go until about midnight. That's my cutoff, Eastern time. And then you can get that link there as well at sabrinasalvati.com.
Just getting our code in here. We got 866.
Code.
People need that.
It's so humid, man, because it's been so rainy. I'm getting poofy now. Getting
Crazy,
poofy.
man. All right, now I'm coming.
All right. It's the poof. Do the poof. Okay. All right.
Zoom. Is this thing working?
And then when you raise your hand, Eric, I'll go ahead and add you as a co-host.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get this thing to let me in. Too many windows open.
That's Zoom for you, man. I just do it on my phone, but that's just me.
Join from the app. Here it comes. Here I come. I'm a coming.
Sue Busy, if you don't see the pinned link, just go to sabrinasalvati.com. You can get it from there. All right, Eric, I'll make you a co-host.
All right.
There you go. All right. And Eric, you're a co-host. All right, guys.
Wasn't the smoothest transition, but here we are. All right. We'll see you in there.
All right, guys. Join me Thursday night. Shama Sawant will be here. She is running against warmonger Adam Smith. She'll be with us live. And that election is coming up very soon. So let's see if we can get Shama in there, someone who's actually a real fighter and has proven to be a fighter. That's it for me tonight, guys. You know how we do it. Have a good night and keep up the fight.